when the monsters were destroying the city and its people, a superhero came and rescued them. This caught the attention of the demon army's boss. After facing the boss, the superhero was instantly defeated. But suddenly, our protagonist enters this world from a portal, and as he notices the superhero, the monster is about to punch him from behind his back. However, our boy effortlessly blocks the attack without even looking or touching it. But what happens next is a story for later, so let's begin.
In Eastern Asia, the city of Fangzhou rises majestically above the clouds, its skyline dominated by towering skyscrapers. It's like any other day in the J-Earth Defense Division, with people going about their usual tasks. Suddenly, the silence is shattered as the Earth Guard alarm goes off, blaring a deafening siren. Every screen flashes a warning message as multiple explosions are reported within the city, with the cause currently unknown. Powerful and large explosions erupt from the ground, tearing the streets apart with dust and rubble flying everywhere. Large, pale hands with sharp, long nails begin emerging from the craters caused by the explosions. A horde of monsters ascends to the surface, laughing and declaring their arrival, ready to unleash chaos. Within seconds, the monsters begin their rampage, massacring any civilians in their path, while the civilians desperately try to escape and call for help. A little kid, weeping bitterly, says he is scared in a trembling voice while his mother, kneeling beside him, tries to calm him down. One of the massive monsters looks down at the kid, telling him not to be afraid, saying he will be set free, while the mother and the child both cower and scream in fright. Terrified, the mother begs for someone to save them, while the child wails for the Earth Defenders to come quickly. The monster sneers, telling the mother that screaming won't save them, unaware that someone is about to punch it. The monster takes the full force of a punch to its face, flying backward as its head is split from its body, crushed into a pulp. The Defender of Earth, Han Kinkyo, assures the mother and child not to worry while the child smiles, and the mother thanks Han Kinkyo. Recognizing Han Kinkyo, the other monsters identify him as the Earth Defender and vow to take his head. Han Kinkyo instructs the mother and child to find shelter quickly and leave the monsters to him. The monsters lunge at Han Kinkyo, growling as he begins to fight them. At that moment, something leaps off a building, causing it to collapse, and lands on the street with such force that the ground crumbles beneath its feet. The deep-sea minion leader, Semura, with a threat level of 5, looks at Han Kinkyo with excitement, eager to toy with him and kill him. Pounding its fist, Semura taunts Han Kinkyo, telling him to struggle and make it worth his while. Swiftly and elegantly, Han Kinkyo sprints towards Semura, his fists clenched. A fierce fight breaks out between Han Kinkyo and Semura, both equally formidable, as Semura mocks Han Kinkyo for his weak punches. Semura raises its fist and begins gathering energy into it, preparing to launch a powerful punch. The punch strikes Han Kinkyo's stomach with such force that he spits blood from his mouth. As Han Kinkyo is sent flying backward and slams into a wall, Semura declares that this is how one should punch. The impact causes Han Kinkyo to smash through multiple walls, each one crumbling upon impact. From such an impact, Han Kinkyo looks badly hurt as he begins coughing up blood. Grinning evilly and towering over the rubble, Semura looks down at Han Kinkyo, mocking him for being such a weak Earth Defender and calling it disappointing. At that moment, a void opens beside Semura, startling it, as a man emerges from the void. Sighing and looking bored, the man seems fed up with the random traversal and wonders when it will end. The stranger sees Han Kinkyo and asks where this place is, while Han Kinkyo, looking puzzled, wonders if the stranger is a new defender. With its eyes blazing and a curious look on its face, Semura stares at the stranger. Semura then begins gathering energy into its fist, ready to punch the stranger, and seeing this, Han Kinkyo warns the stranger to watch his back. Semura thrusts its fist forward to punch the stranger who is turned the other way. However, the stranger raises his hand sideways, as if to stop Semura's powerful punch with his palm. Surprisingly, Semura's fist is forced to halt a few inches away from the stranger's raised palm. Looking annoyed, the stranger remarks that this is bothersome. Meanwhile, Semura is bewildered, seeing its punch stopped so easily. Suddenly, the stranger makes a gesture with his outstretched hand, causing Semura's fist to explode instantly. Mouth bloodied and jaws wide open, Han Kinkyo vows never to forget this scene for the rest of his life. The stranger, with his raised hand, causes Semura's entire arm to be blown apart into pieces. Unable to believe what just happened, Semura asks the stranger who he is. The stranger calmly replies that his name is Shang Yun. Semura regenerates its blown-up arm and charges toward Shang Yun, eyes burning with determination as it growls that it will end him. It then slashes both its arms at Shang Yun with great speed, managing a dozen consecutive slashes in a second. Meanwhile, with a calm expression and eyes closed, Shang Yun uses just 2 fingers of his right hand to stop all of Semura's attacks. Semura is taken aback as it notices both its arms have been shattered. So, it takes a big leap backward, landing a few meters away from Shang Yun, and then regenerates its arms again. It acknowledges that Shang Yun is indeed quite skilled. Semira then declares that it will all end it now and begins charging up energy to launch a powerful attack. The ground beneath starts collapsing under the sheer force of Semira's legs. Suddenly, a powerful shockwave travels in every direction, with Semira as its epicenter. The buildings begin collapsing and falling down. With blazing eyes, Semira growls at Shang Yun to enjoy his last moments to the fullest. Meanwhile, Shang Yun, looking super irritated, wonders if monsters in this world really talk this much. Semira applies full force to its leg and then propels itself forward at Shang Yun, charging at him with blinding speed. Closing in on Shang Yun, Semira powers up its raised fist, ready to crush him. Declaring that it will take Shang Yun's life, Semira thrusts its fist forward, aiming straight at Shang Yun. With a deep sigh, Shang Yun raises his palms skyward before flipping them to face the ground, as if commanding the very air to bow before his will. Suddenly, a powerful force stops Semira's punch, pressing its body down as if gravity has multiplied. It struggles to move, bewildered by the sheer power. As the pressure intensifies, Semira wonders how a mere human can be this strong before its body is crushed into a flat sheet, blood splattering everywhere. Shang Yun watches silently as he successfully defeats his opponent. Meanwhile, Han Kinkyo wonders if he is seeing things, having witnessed Shang Yun end the fight with a single move. Overwhelmed by his wounds and fatigue, Han Kinkyo passes out on the spot. Seeing Han Kinkyo faint, Shang Yun is disappointed as he wanted to ask him some questions. Suddenly, a massive circular object with ring-like structures around it starts shooting powerful lasers down at the buildings, causing explosions. From the circular teleportation gate, countless more monsters begin descending and landing on the streets below in the city. The defenders of Earth, busy battling the monsters, report to their supervisor that there are too many monsters, and they can't defeat them all. Luo Lian, the supervisor, says they will have to find a way to destroy the teleportation gates until reinforcements arrive. The monsters, with their sharp teeth and large tongues, begin advancing forward, growling. With a concerned expression, Luo Lian curses in desperation, wondering why the demons started such a large-scale invasion so suddenly. A chopper flies over the city, inside which two men from a news company are live-streaming the battle ongoing down below in the city. The reporter looks excited, hoping to get good TRP with all this explosive news. Looking through his camera, he gives a startled look, noticing two people near the teleportation gates. Shang Yun is floating high above the city, with the unconscious Han Kinkyo suspended beside him, head hanging down. Looking ahead at the massive teleportation gates, Shang Yun notes that this is probably the source of all these troubles. With two fingers raised before his face, Shang Yun begins chanting a spell, muttering suppress, as he points his other hand toward the teleportation gate. Suddenly, a mass of white clouds gathers in the sky, revealing a golden roof of a building-like structure emerging from within. The sudden appearance of the clouds slightly dims the sky, and the monsters on the ground look up in puzzlement. Within seconds, a massive, multi-storied pagoda building emerges from the clouds, golden in color and shining brightly in the sun. With a deafening thud, the pagoda slams down on the ground, making other skyscrapers and buildings look like toys next to it. The bright, shining light and the shockwaves released from the pagoda travel in all directions, causing the monsters to disintegrate. Just like that, all the monsters are destroyed, leaving the streets empty. Still inside the chopper and recording all this, the reporter bellows that this is absolutely major news. As the shockwaves hit the chopper, it begins shaking violently. The reporter, with his camera focused on Shang Yun, excitedly suggests a legendary headline for this news and is certain it will be the front page story for the next few months. The golden pagoda begins to disintegrate from the top, dissolving into shimmering flakes that drift away. From the rubbles, people start emerging, asking if it's all over while some of them point to the sky, thanking Shang Yun for saving them. Meanwhile, Shang Yun silently looks down at the people. A female Earth defender asks Supervisor Luo Lian if he knows the person flying above, and Luo Lian replies he doesn't but assumes it might be an S-class hero from some organization. The news reporter instructs the pilot to fly the chopper closer to their savior, eager to interview him and not miss this exclusive opportunity. With the helicopter very close to Shang Yun, the reporter greets him and asks which organization he belongs to. Looking excited to know, the reporter asks if Shang Yun is from the Superhero Association, the Magic Academy, or Beast Island. Not knowing what to say, Shang Yun stares in puzzlement and suddenly vanishes into thin air, leaving the reporter bewildered. Supervisor Luo Lian tells Hamira to report to headquarters immediately and try to determine their savior's identity. Hamira agrees. An hour after the attack, within the Earth Defense Division office in Fangzhou City, the news of Shang Yun saving the city is playing on all the screens as the office buzzes with activity. Supervisor Luo Lian listens carefully as the newsreader states that they still don't know the mysterious hero's identity but guess based on his strength, he is at least S-class. Hamira approaches Luo Lian, saying she reported the incident but hasn't heard back from headquarters, suspecting they might also be unaware of the hero's origin. This means, as Luo Lian points out, that the hero is not one of them, and he asks if it might be a coincidence that the hero appeared out of nowhere. A blonde woman notes that at least the hero isn't allied with the fish people. Alarmed at this voice, both Luo Lian and Hamira turn around to see who spoke. The deputy director of the association and S-class hero, Diana, walks forward, claiming she just returned from the scene and apologizes for being late. She reveals that the fish people's large-scale invasion was a distraction and their real target was to search for their master, Crown. Luo Lian points out that if that's the case, there should be a leader at the scene commanding whom they haven't found traces of yet. Diana claims that the leader is already dead and says she found his remnants, and the DNA test revealed it was indeed the leader, Kimura. She adds that witnesses reported the unknown hero crushed Kimura into a pulp with a single blow, and headquarters estimates the hero's strength far exceeds S-class. More importantly, Diana says they still don't know the hero's intentions or his identity. She commands Luo Lian and Hamira to focus on investigating the hero's identity from now on, and, until the investigation is complete, to block all information about the hero. Diana wonders if the hero is their enemy or friend, considering the fact that he killed Kimura with one blow. On the outskirts of Fangzhou City, Shang Yun meditates near the Great Lake, hovering a foot off the ground with his eyes closed and legs crossed, when he suddenly sneezes loudly. He notes that he's once again gotten entangled in troublesome karma. A fish lunges out of the water and falls onto the dry ground, alarming Shang Yun, who turns sideways, witnessing the scene. Lifting the fish carefully, Shang Yun gently returns it to the water. He gets on his feet and decides to just go with the flow since he's already involved in this world's affairs. Meanwhile, Han Kinkyo is still unconscious, lying on his back on a stone slab, groaning while tossing and turning. Suddenly, he opens his eyes wide and, sitting up slightly, asks where he is while looking around. Someone walks behind Han Kinkyo, noting that he's finally awake, while Han Kinkyo looks puzzled as he slowly turns his head. A fierce lion, massive in size, looms over Han Kinkyo, causing him to look terrified and go pale, and then he screams out loud. Apologizing to Han Kinkyo while holding a small cat, Shang Yun explains that Cupper just likes to tease people, though Cupper looks cross at being called a monster. Cupper informs Han Kinkyo that he is a 1,000-year-old demon, the fire-eyed lion, and not a monster. Seeing the small lion talk, Han Kinkyo is bewildered and speechless. Cupper shakes his paws and protests that it's unnecessary to make a big deal out of such a simple thing and says giving a little scare won't kill Han Kinkyo. Meanwhile, Han Kinkyo remembers that this person is the one who actually killed Kimura with one blow. Standing up to face Shang Yun, Han Kinkyo thanks him for saving his life and asks what he should call him, and Shang Yun gives him his name. Shang Yun points out that Han Kinkyo's injuries have healed and suggests he go back home so his family won't worry about him. In a serious voice, Han Kinkyo addresses Shang Yun and, getting on his knees, begs him to take him as his disciple. Looking taken aback, Shang Yun asks Han Kinkyo why he wants to be his disciple. Han Kinkyo says he needs power and wants to be strong, the strongest hero. Shang Yun remains silent at Han Kinkyo's response. Then, turning around to leave, Shang Yun tells Han Kinkyo that he won't accept him and advises him to go back. After being refused as a disciple, Han Kinkyo is stunned. He asks why he won't be accepted. Shang Yun explains that he doesn't accept people who already belong to a faction, as per his rule. He clarified that he only brought Han Kinkyo here because otherwise he would be dead due to his gravely injured organs. Learning the truth, Han Kinkyo falls to his knees, looking hopeless, and in a grave tone, says he understands now. With tears in his eyes and trembling lips, Han Kinkyo claims all he wants is to be stronger and protect more people, but he can't even protect himself now. Hearing this, Shang Yun stops and slightly turns around to look at Han Kinkyo. He then recalls his younger self, telling a friend he wanted to be stronger, like those heroes who saved so many people. As they grew older, Shang Yun and his friend were acknowledged among people as immortals and heroes. There was a time when Shang Yun's friend couldn't defeat certain monsters and was heavily injured, failing to protect others. Remembering these flashbacks, Shang Yun sighs. He agrees to teach Han Kinkyo a move, promising to accept him as a disciple if he masters it. Surprised, Han Kinkyo asks, "Really?" Shang Yun firmly states that he don't joke. He instructs Han Kinkyo to watch carefully and explain that the move is called the 9 Yang True Technique. And then he begins explaining that between heaven and earth, there are yin and yang energies, where yang is fiery and fierce while yin is cold and gentle. He adds that 9 Yang is the extreme of yang, the essence of fiery and intense energy, as he raises his hand and releases a burst of that energy. Shang Yun further tells Han Kinkyo that one should use yang as the main attack and yin as the main control, balance, and unity. As an energy ball appears between Shang Yun's 2 fingers, he notes that yang lines transform into the 9 Yang True Technique. A powerful beam of energy flies forward, like a laser, moving the sand and dust out of its way. Han Kinkyo feels the overwhelming force of the energy, hitting his face and struggles to stand straight. The energy beam strikes a small hill on its path, obliterating it. With the technique finished, dust and smoke bellows everywhere, while Han Kinkyo has his eyes closed in fear. Opening his eyes, Han Kinkyo is shocked to see a massive, fiery chasm splitting the earth, with the hill miles away destroyed and half of its mass missing. Shang Yun asks Han Kinkyo if he managed to remember the move, while Han Kinkyo looks shaken by such destructive power. Turning away, Shang Yun tells Han Kinkyo to find him once he's learned the move. Han Kinkyo shouts for Shang Yun to wait, but he suddenly finds himself teleported back to the city, standing on a crowded street. Looking around, Han Kinkyo is startled as he realizes he has returned without being told how to sense yin and yang energies. Cupper, perched on Shang Yun's shoulder, asks why he accepted Han Kinkyo and if he's not worried about karma, but Shang Yun replies that Han Kinkyo reminded him of an old friend. Cupper thinks for a moment and asks if the people in this world can understand immortal techniques. Shang Yun responds that it all depends on their fate. At the underground secret base X in Fangzhou City, the system begins issuing a warning, notifying that a massive unknown energy has been detected and continues giving the warning. Dr. Bede, head of research at this base, with a concerned look, says this is not good. He then bellows orders for immediate reporting that an unknown force has triggered the seal on X. Dr. Bede clenches his teeth, noting that first it was the fish people, and now this abnormal energy. He wonders if the world's disaster might be starting again. Several days after the attack, Deputy Director Diana assures on the news that it has been completely resolved and announces more Earth defenders will be stationed throughout the city for safety. Shang Yun stands among the crowd, watching the news as the interviewer asks Diana about the Earth Defense's stance on the mysterious hero rumors. Diana responds that online rumors can't be taken seriously, and people spread them just to gain fame, requesting the public to trust the Earth Defense. Shang Yun hears people around him discussing a video about the mysterious hero that has now been taken down from the internet, with the Earth Defense calling it fake. Hearing these whispers, Cupper notes that Shang Yun is being hidden away, which Shang Yun thinks is better as it will save him a lot of trouble. Suddenly, Shang Yun and Cupper both sense something and instantly vanish into thin air. Within a second, they appear on top of a huge, damaged building. Resting against a pole, Diana notes that Shang Yun's detection is fully exposed, implying he's trying to lure her, which Shang Yun confirms and says he will get straight to the point. Turning to look at Shang Yun, Diana asks who he is, which faction he belongs to, and what his purpose was in appearing in Fangzhou City. Overwhelmed by these questions, Shang Yun remains silent, wondering how to answer them all. Seeing Shang Yun not answering, Diana raises her sword and prepares to attack. Charging at Shang Yun, she tells him not to blame her for the outcome. With an irritated look, Shang Yun admits that people in this world really do love to fight. As Diana's flaming sword nears Shang Yun, he raises two fingers and effortlessly traps it between them. Diana yelps in shock seeing her attack stop this way. Diana is in shock as she sees Shang Yun effortlessly stop her sword technique. She then leaps high and lands a few meters away from Shang Yun. With his hand still raised, Shang Yun asks Diana if she still wants to fight. Diana admits she is surprised by Shang Yun's strength and says she would retreat if it weren't for her duty. She offers Shang Yun two options. If she loses, she will retreat, but if Shang Yun gets hit by her another move, he must answer her questions truthfully. Sighing in irritation, Shang Yun agrees to this challenge. Diana raises her sword, which begins glowing with energy, as she warns Shang Yun to be careful. A powerful burst of energy bellows out around Diana, sending gusts of wind and shockwaves in all directions. Pointing her sword ahead, Diana shouts annihilation, followed by perish, sending a huge laser of energy flying towards Shang Yun. Remaining calm, Shang Yun stands his ground as the energy attack flies straight toward him. At the last moment, swiftly raises his hand, facing the attack coming at him. Suddenly, the energy laser gets slashed in two, flying past Shang Yun on either side without touching or harming him. This causes a V-shaped, deep gash to form on the ground. Shocked, Diana asks Shang Yun what he did. Shang Yun casually replies that he just slashed the attack apart, nothing more. Taken aback, Diana says that's truly terrifying. She then agrees to stop pressuring Shang Yun, as per their agreement, and cautions him that many others might try to disturb him since his intentions are unclear. Realizing this could go on endlessly, Shang Yun introduces himself to Diana before turning to leave, saying he's just a cultivator, not her enemy. While Diana inquires about his actions the other day, Shang Yun explains that he was just passing by and saw an evil thing, so he took care of it without any other intention. With that, Shang Yun disappears from the spot. Diana presses on her earpiece and asks the person on the other side if they heard all this. The person asks how strong Diana thinks Shang Yun is, to which she replies, unfathomable. At the Dark Alliance base, two people stand before a dark figure on a massive throne, one reporting that the Fishman army led by Kimura was entirely wiped out by a single person. The huge monster on the throne orders those two people to expel the Fishman clan from their alliance. The monster mentions sensing the energy fluctuation of his master in Fangzhou City and notes that with such a powerful individual hiding there, the answer is already clear. He then commands the two to deploy operatives throughout Fangzhou City and find out the exact location where their master is sealed. The two agree. As for the new hero, the monster declares he will personally meet him. In Fangzhou's Vitality City, Shang Yun is inside a phone shop, examining a tablet while the salesman enthusiastically describes it as their latest product and begins explaining its features. The salesman also claims that the tablet's camera has an extremely long visual range, capable of seeing stones on the moon, prompting Shang Yun to ask if it's rare to see the moon clearly. Feeling awkward, the salesman explains that with professional equipment, it's naturally easy, and only their company can achieve such a feat with a tablet. Suddenly, Shang Yun and the salesman find themselves standing on the actual moon, looking up at the massive, blue Earth. Puzzled, the salesman asks if he's seeing things or if they're actually on the real moon. But a second later, they reappear back in the shop, leaving the salesman completely bewildered, unable to understand what just happened. Shang Yun tells the salesman they didn't go anywhere, and reveals it was the effect of the Heaven's Eye technique. For payment, Shang Yun places a solid round block of gold on the table, shocking the salesman. The salesman bows down and sincerely thanks Shang Yun, who walks away with his brand new tablet. Cupper points out the salesman's unusual happiness, suggesting Shang Yun overpaid, but Shang Yun replies that gold and silver are mere worldly possessions to him. Cupper asks why Shang Yun bought the tablet, and Shang Yun replies he's fascinated because it's neither a cultivation method nor a spiritual artifact, yet it possesses supernatural abilities. As Shang Yun exits the store, he sees Han Kinkyo arguing with a girl who insists the true technique is a scam, while Han Kinkyo insists it's real. Having seen it himself, the girl refuses to believe it and instead urges Han Kinkyo to focus on his upcoming promotion exams and stop wasting his time. She reminds him that if he doesn't get promoted this time, he won't have another chance, and asks if he understands. Han Kinkyo, looking irritated, replies he's trying to figure something out. The girl is about to lecture Han Kinkyo further, when suddenly a beam of light shatters the roof of the building and slams into the ground, causing people to scream and scatter. Standing amidst the rubble is a large, ant-like monster who just smashed through the roof as he begins looking around. He is the S-class monster, Mothman, and with a longing expression, he calls the people around him little snacks. Grinning with his massive, sharp teeth, Mothman greets the people, calling them little snacks. Han Kinkyo and his friend are taken aback by Mothman's sudden appearance. Meanwhile, the people begin screaming and fleeing, shouting for help. Mothman laughs and tells the people to run away quickly. Raising his hand, he claims hunting is much more fun when his targets are fleeing. He then swings his clawed hands, shooting multiple air blades at the people. Hit by the blades, people start getting chopped down like vegetables. Two blades fly toward a man trying to flee, nearly about to strike him. Han Kinkyo's friend quickly intervenes, slashing the air blades with her void blade, neutralizing them. She shouts at the man to quickly get out of there, and he sprints away, thanking her. Han Kinkyo and his friend confront Mothman, warning him to stop his actions. Mothman recognizes them as Earth defenders and says he was just looking for them. Extending his wings and rising slightly off the ground, he bellows that he will annihilate every Earth defender. He then shoots numerous wind blades straight at Han Kinkyo and the girl. Han Kinkyo reacts quickly, turning his hand into steel and using it to disperse the air blades coming at him. Struggling to hold on, Han Kinkyo clenches his teeth, realizing he can't get close to Mothman. Mothman gives an evil laugh and says he will never engage in close combat with Han Kinkyo. The girl suggests they should retreat for now, but Han Kinkyo refuses, claiming he still has one more move, the true technique of 9 suns. Taking shelter behind a metal object, the girl warns Han Kinkyo that the move is just a scam. But Han Kinkyo, raising his hand and declaring his master is not a scammer, begins channeling the yin and yang energies. Witnessing this from the side, Cupper remarks that Han Kinkyo has quite the talent. Han Kinkyo begins sweating, trying with all his might and concentration to activate Shang Yun's technique. Suddenly, the gathered energy bellows out in all directions, and Han Kinkyo realizes he has lost control over it. A massive explosion shakes the area, sending Han Kinkyo flying backward with force. The girl runs towards him, shouting his name as he slams down a few feet away on the ground. Holding Han Kinkyo on her lap, she asks if he's okay, concern on her face, as Han Kinkyo coughs up blood. Meanwhile, Mothman smirks and mocks Han Kinkyo, asking if that was his ultimate move or a suicide move. Finally deciding to act, Shang Yun steps forward, surprising Han Kinkyo with his sudden appearance. Mothman, angered at the sight of Shang Yun, leaps into the air, saying he will grant Shang Yun's wish to die. He then spins his whole body like a propeller, shooting 1,000 air blades at Shang Yun. With a calm demeanor, Shang Yun raises his hand toward the incoming attacks, gathering yin and yang energy before his palm. The gathered energy forms a shield before him, deflecting the continuous air blades striking it. Mothman notes it's the suicide trick again and points out that even if Shang Yun manages to block his attacks, it won't make any difference. He then spins once more, sending a spiraling, massive wave of air current attack at Shang Yun. Shang Yun transforms the yang energy into a small fireball before his outstretched palms. With his eyes blazing, he uses the Nine Suns ignition move, shooting a powerful energy laser at Mothman. Terrified, Mothman shouts out as Shang Yun's attack closes in on him. As the attack hits Mothman, it causes a small but powerful explosion, melting him with its searing heat as shockwaves spread in all directions. Han Kinkyo and his friend shield their faces from the shockwave. As the explosion ceases, Mothman is nowhere to be seen, not even his corpse remains. With her jaw wide open in shock, the girl exclaims that it's impressive. Grinning, Han Kinkyo reminds the girl he was right and his master is not a scammer, while the girl says she has made up her mind. With her eyes sparkling, she claims she also wants to become Shang Yun's disciple. Shang Yun cautions Han Kinkyo that he is too hasty. He points out that controlling the dual energies of yin and yang is not simple and warns that obstructed chi flow will cause self-harm. He then instructs Han Kinkyo to familiarize himself with the circulation of chi first, which Han Kinkyo happily agrees to follow. Bowing to Shang Yun, the girl apologizes for her defamatory words, and Shang Yun forgives her for her sincerity. In a hopeful tone, the girl says she also wants to be Shang Yun's disciple and asks if that's possible. Shang Yun remains silent, considering, then says they can discuss this matter next time, prompting the girl to leak tears of disappointment, but still apologize for causing trouble. Shang Yun asks Han Kinkyo about quick cash jobs, and Han Kinkyo suggests joining the Earth Defenders, but Shang Yun declines. Both Han Kinkyo and the girl are surprised to hear Shang Yun dismiss this job offer so easily. Shang Yun says he would rather the Earth Defenders not disturb him, remembering how Diana had tried to fight him before. At the Earth Defense High Council, holographic figures representing key leaders convene to discuss a critical agenda, with two people present physically. The leader of the Superhero Association, S-Class hero Lex Russo, asks the others for their opinions regarding the mysterious hero. Gandalf, the headmaster of the Magic Academy and S-Class hero, reluctantly admits the mysterious hero's power likely exceeds theirs and believes forming a good relationship will benefit them all. Moreover, he draws attention to the Dark Alliance, which is currently the biggest threat, and emphasizes the need not to lose sight of it. Call, the pontiff of the Mechanical God Sect and S-Class hero, agrees with Gandalf, noting that the Dark Alliance is likely aware of everything and that stopping them should be their top priority. The Lord of Beast Island, S-Class hero Hank, agrees with both Gandalf and Call but thinks they should still be cautious of the mysterious hero as well. Lex Russo notes that the three heroes share the same opinion and declares they will fully confront the Dark Alliance, mentioning that Diana has arranged for the Shadow Magician to monitor them. With this discussion concluded, the meeting ends, and the three heroes exit the call. Looking troubled, Lex Russo closes his eyes and takes a deep sigh. The man standing behind Lex Russo looks crossed and says if it were up to him, he would have already taken down Lord Shang Yun himself. Turning to face the man, Lex Russo tells him not to underestimate others and notes that they still know nothing about Shang Yun. The man, Libis Kent, an S-Class hero, huffs and tells Lex Russo to hurry up, claiming his patience is limited. Meanwhile, back in Vitality City in Fangzhou, Han Kinkyo says he has contacted headquarters, and the cleanup crew is already on their way. The girl says they have nothing more to do now, and Han Kinkyo asks Shang Yun what his plans are for the next step. Shang Yun says he wants to take a stroll around the city, since he isn't familiar with the place and has a lot to learn. Her eyes sparkling, the girl offers to be Shang Yun's guide, claiming she is very familiar with the city. Shang Yun agrees to let the girl guide him, hoping it will make things easier with someone knowledgeable accompanying him. The girl cheers happily, while Han Kinkyo says he also wants to accompany them. Trey Young, an A-Class hero from the Superhero Association, observes Shang Yun from afar, hidden behind a pillar, astonished by how Shang Yun killed an S-Class monster with a single blow. A few days ago, in Diana's office, she had given Trey Young Shang Yun's picture and instructed him to observe and follow Shang Yun from a distance. Picking up the picture and looking at it, Trey Young had recognized that the person in it was the same one who appeared on the day of the Fisherman Uprising. Diana had then warned Trey Young to be extremely cautious and to retreat immediately if any issues arose, as Trey Young had questioned whether it was really necessary to be so cautious. Diana had informed Trey Young that Shang Yun effortlessly cut through her annihilation deathlight without a scratch. Now, in the present, Trey Young finally realizes this job won't be easy for him to handle. Looking through her phone, The girl checks the places and suggests they visit the Earth Defense Headquarters first. His eyes narrowing in suspicion, Shang Yun asks why. The girl explains that Earth Defense is the largest organization on Earth, so there's much to see there, and Han Kinkyo adds that getting to know them could help avoid unnecessary conflicts. Shang Yun remains silent, considering what to do regarding this suggestion. Trey Young, meanwhile, unable to hear Shang Yun's conversation clearly, decides to move closer and stealthily advances a little forward. He is shocked when he hears Shang Yun agree to Han Kinkyo's suggestion to go to the Earth Defense Headquarters first. Moreover, he gives a scared look, wondering if Shang Yun is planning to attack the headquarters by going there. And then he quickly decides to inform Diana regarding this. Though he knows he can't defeat Shang Yun, he still wants to hold him back until Diana arrives, so he comes out of hiding and sprints toward Shang Yun. Han Kinkyo sees Trey Young lunging at them and recognizes him. Trey Young uses the Shadow Art, Grand Dark Heaven attack, causing dark shadows to surround Shang Yun and the two others. As the dark shadows begin engulfing them from all sides, the three of them look around in puzzlement. Within seconds, a dome of dark shadow completely traps Shang Yun and the others inside it. Looking confused, Han Kinkyo asks what Trey Young is trying to do since the monster is already defeated. Entering the dome himself, Trey Young says it's to stop Shang Yun. Han Kinkyo is unable to grasp what Trey Young is trying to say. Trey Young accuses Han Kinkyo of falling so low as a member of the Earth Defense by trying to take Shang Yun to the headquarters. Clenching his fist, Trey Young declares that he won't let Han Kinkyo succeed in whatever plans he has. The top-level combat training room in Earth Defense Headquarters is a sleek, high-tech space with metallic walls and bright lighting. Diana is currently in this facility, training hard, and her body covered in sweat. With a powerful kick, she sends the practice target flying away with massive force. Sweating more, she takes a long breath. At that moment, the system informs Diana that she has received an urgent notification from hero Trey Young. After seeing the message, she hurriedly grabs her clothes and dashes out of the training facility, heading straight to where Trey Young is. Meanwhile, back inside the dome, Trey Young tells Han Kinkyo that he won't let him succeed. Puzzled by what's happening, Han Kinkyo tries to reason with Trey Young, saying there's been a misunderstanding, and the girl adds that they just want to visit the headquarters. Trey Young shouts at the two to shut up, calling them traitors. He addresses Shang Yun, stating that with how dangerous he is, if he intends to harm Earth Defense, the consequences will be unimaginable, and says he won't allow this to happen as it's his duty as a hero. Han Kinkyo calls out Trey Young, saying his claims are purely speculative and that he can't just make baseless accusations. In anger, Han Kinkyo tries to step forward, but Shang Yun stops him, saying there's no need for further words. Seeing Han Kinkyo about to act, Trey Young now confirms his suspicion of Han Kinkyo's betrayal of Earth Defense and decides to strike first, showcasing his strength as he flies behind the three. Han Kinkyo gives a shocked look as he points out that Trey Young just disappeared. Trey Young is actually moving at such speed that he appears to be invisible as he advises the three to give up, claiming no one can defeat him in darkness. However, Shang Yun easily spots Trey Young and appears right behind him, asking if he is truly unbeatable. Startled and taken aback, Trey Young begs Shang Yun to show him mercy, but Shang Yun attacks him, sending him slamming down onto the ground with force, causing dust to fly everywhere from the impact. Han Kinkyo and the girl look on in horror as they see Trey Young lying unconscious in a massive crater he created by slamming into the ground. As the Shadow Dome starts to disappear, Diana arrives, running fast and calling out for Shang Yun. Panting from having run too fast, Diana says she tried her best to arrive on time. Seeing Diana, Trey Young calls out to her happily, with tears of joy leaking from his eyes. Shang Yun asks Diana if she has already forgotten their agreement. Diana forces a smile, saying she remembers and notes that there must have been some misunderstanding in all this. She asks Trey Young if that isn't right, prompting Trey Young to swear nervously, lost for words. Diana sighs and says she will deal with Trey Young when they return. Shang Yun decides to forget this incident for now since it was a misunderstanding. Diana says she heard Shang Yun wants to visit Earth Defense and offers to serve as his guide, even agreeing to show him some secret facilities as compensation for the earlier interruption. But Shang Yun refuses Diana's offer, while Han Kinkyo and the girl look very excited, their eyes sparkling with anticipation. Diana hopefully asks Shang Yun to give it some more thought. Not wanting to argue further, Shang Yun sighs and agrees to let Diana be his guide and handle the task, while Diana expresses her happiness to assist. Suddenly, a warning announces that Codex 3142 has escaped containment and is heading towards Sector B, prompting an order for nearby heroes to proceed immediately to suppress the situation. Sector B1 in Fangzhou City is a mess. Buildings and vehicles are all in flames, the road is damaged, and everything is in ruins. A machine gun held by someone is firing a constant stream of bullets without pause. Taking shelter behind the walls are some police officers, with one of them protecting a girl who is screaming in fright. The one causing all this chaos is a monster with an A+ threat level, laughing as it continues firing the machine gun mounted to its left arm. At that moment, two heroes arrive, warning the monster to cease its rampage as one of them shoots energy balls at it. But the monster easily deflects those balls, swinging its massive weapon. The two heroes, one carrying a sword and the other a baseball bat, instruct the police officers to escort the girl to safety and leave the monster to them. The baseball hero withdraws 3 balls and shoots them with force at the monster, which fly at high speed while glowing with energy. The monster deflects the balls away, but they return from all 3 directions, leaving it startled. Hit by the balls, the monster groans in pain. The hero with the sword sees the monster distracted and notes it as an opportunity. He sprints toward the monster, drawing his sword, and uses the 6-sword style technique, swinging his sword consecutively at the monster's body. After being cut numerous times, the monster howls and coughs up blood as the hero, with his eyes blazing, mutters, "Scattered blossoms." Thinking he has defeated the monster, the hero mocks it, asking if that's all it has got. The monster asks the hero if that's what he thinks and stretches its massive hand to grab the hero, catching him off guard. Unable to react in time, the hero gets caught as the monster lifts him off the ground, gripping his face with a single hand. Terrified, the hero sputters how it's possible since he clearly struck the monster's vital points. Grinning, the monster growls that it no longer has any vital points since it underwent a complete transformation. The baseball hero shouts at the monster to release his friend, but the monster snarls at the baseball hero, saying he will be next and declaring that no one can escape. Suddenly, an attack from nowhere strikes the monster's hand, severing it and freeing the hero. Diana arrives, lunges at the monster, and kicks it, sending it flying backward to slam into a nearby wall. The sword hero, finally free from the monster's grasp, looks at who just saved him. He recognizes Diana and exclaims in surprise. With a booming laugh, the monster pushes itself out of the rubble, claiming it escaped the prison just to see Diana, as it was she who sent it to the underground prison in the first place. Diana declares that now the monster has seen her, it's time for it to return to the prison. The monster's arm regenerates, but instead of a hand, it forms a massive sharp blade as it charges forward at Diana. The monster lunges at Diana, raising its blade-mounted arm high above its head, ready to strike her. Diana reacts swiftly and takes a great leap backward to dodge the monster's killing blow. She notes that the monster has indeed become stronger now and decides to end it quickly. And then she lunges forward at the monster, swinging her sword, which collides with the monster's blade, producing a shower of sparks. She quickly aims another attack, striking the monster powerfully with her shield before it can react. Continuing her assault, Diana swings her sword, sending multiple sharp blades at the monster. All the blades hit the monster in multiple places, leaving deep cuts on its body. Meanwhile, Shang Yun and the 2 others watch from afar, witnessing Diana's fierce battle. The girl, in awe and impressed, exclaims that Diana is amazing. Shang Yun notes that the monster hasn't yet given its all. Dark blood splatters on the ground, forming a small pool from the monster's wounds. Deep gash opens up, splitting half of the monster's skull, and dark strands of energy are released from the wound. Diana intently stares at the monster silently. The monster, now looking even more fierce with half of its brain exposed, declares that with its immense strength, it can easily crush Diana. Grinning broadly, the monster claims it can easily crush Diana now. Suddenly, a large, glowing octagon symbol appears beneath the monster, startling both him and Diana. Shang Yun mutters, "Get up," unleashing a barrier that billows upwards from the octagon symbol, leaving the monster puzzled as it asks what this is. Walking forward, Shang Yun asks Diana if she minds him lending her a hand. Shang Yun mentions that if they delay too long, it might affect their upcoming journey. Grinning, the monster says this type of thing can't trap it and begins producing massive, hair-like strands from its back. These strands form into a huge cannon, and the monster declares it will now demonstrate the new power it has just obtained. Saying so, it shoots a powerful laser from its back at the barrier trapping it, intending to shatter it into pieces. However, the barrier remains undamaged. Seeing this, the monster is shocked and asks how it's possible for the barrier to be completely unharmed. Meanwhile, Shang Yun gestures with both hands, preparing to use the primordial mystic fire formation. With flames dancing around him and his eyes glowing, Shang Yun curses the monster to reduce to ashes. Suddenly, the tall barrier surrounding the monster turns into a torrent of hot flames, beginning to burn the monster. The monster, still grinning, says this is futile, claiming itself as immortal and unable to be killed. As the flames intensify in heat, Shang Yun asks the monster if that's so. When the monster looks down at its arm, it sees that its fingers have already disintegrated into ashes and it growls, asking what's going on. It then realizes its regeneration has stopped and bellows, demanding to know how this is possible. Now, its whole body begins disintegrating, and it pleads with Shang Yun to stop. After a few seconds, the torrent of fire disappears, leaving nothing but ashes behind. Diana, impressed by such a powerful move from Shang Yun, expresses her desire to see what his full power must look like. At this moment, in the government building of Fangzhou City, a man in glasses speaks into a phone, saying he has succeeded while grabbing a blonde man's throat with his other hand. The person on the other side of the phone tells the man in glasses to do the work properly, and the man in glasses assures him he will handle everything. Suddenly, a gooey, dark substance emerges from the man in glasses and begins entering the blonde man's wide-open mouth. It's as if the man in glasses is merging into the blonde man's body. After a while, the blonde man, looking out of the window, reports that all preparations are complete, and the voice on the other end says they can proceed and warns him not to disappoint. The blonde man, now seemingly taken over or possessed by the previous man in glasses, assures the other man on the phone that he won't fail. Deep in the ocean, inside the Dark Alliance's spirit array, a group of people in large cloaks are gathered, all praying to their god. They request their god to guide their path and lead their soul. Suddenly, something red, like blood, begins dripping down onto the array from above. From a massive, peculiar drop of blood, a demon's face emerges, and the monster below, trembling with awe, reverently addresses it as the Great Lord. The monster kneels, asking the demon for forgiveness and stating that they've traced its scattered soul energy to Fangzhou City, though the exact location is still under investigation. The demon tries to speak with great difficulty, saying he is in Fangzhou City underground, but before he can continue, the large drop of blood begins to fall apart. With a splash, the blood falls down to the array. The monster realizes the connection has been severed but points out that it's enough. He then speaks through the earpiece, asking the man in glasses if he heard their lord's words and urging him not to fail, to which the man in glasses assures the demon he will handle it. The monster rejoices, declaring that their lord is about to return to this world. He declares that with their lord's rise, the former rulers will once again dominate this planet. Arriving at the Earth Defense Zhou City branch, Diana warmly welcomes Shang Yun in. She explains that the history of Earth defense is not very long. Initially, the heroes were mostly civilian vigilantes, scattered and disorganized, driven solely by passion and determination. Facing extremely powerful enemies, the heroes gradually united, and slowly everything started building up. Now, the global defense organization known as Earth Defense has formed. Diana notes that when an organization becomes too large, internal rifts start to appear, and Earth Defense is no exception. She explains that divisions occurred, including the Super God Association, centered around superpowers, the Magic Academy, centered around magic, the Mechanical Sect, centered around technological advancements, and Beast Island, centered around witchcraft and shamanic arts. According to Diana, today these four organizations are responsible for different regions, with the Super God Association holding the main responsibility for Fangzhou City. At that moment, Supervisor Luo Lian spots Diana and happily exclaims that she is back. Seeing Shang Yun, Luo Lian asks who he is, and Diana introduces him, saying she brought him for a visit and inquiring if that will be acceptable. Luo Lian smiles and says it will be no problem, adding that he has long wanted to thank Shang Yun for his help with the fishmen and expresses his gratitude. Shang Yun simply says it was just a small effort. Looking at his watch, Luo Lian is startled, shouting that it's already time, and he turns to leave, waving goodbye to Diana, saying he has to go receive the government officials who are arriving. Shang Yun points out that everyone seems busy, and Diana agrees that manpower is always insufficient here. A while later, Diana swipes her card on the door's lock, and as it opens, she turns to Shang Yun and offers him a position in Earth Defense, noting that he can easily attain an S-class hero rating along with many perks. Shang Yun declines the offer without a second thought. Diana seems taken aback, seeing Shang Yun not even hesitate or think about the offer. At that moment, someone comes shouting down the corridor, asking people to move out of the way. Diana and Shang Yun stand against the wall as two health professionals move along, holding a stretcher with an injured man, missing an arm and a leg, lying on it. Shang Yun asks what's up with the injured man, and Diana says it's the main reason for the manpower shortage. The health professionals take the injured man to the medical department hall. Showing all the injured people, Diana explains that this is the hidden reality beneath the surface of Earth Defense. Seeing Shang Yun walk forward without a word, Diana asks him what he is doing. Shang Yun confronts an injured man and tries to give him a pill, saying it will heal him if he takes it. Looking uncertain, the injured man gazes at Diana for approval, and Diana, with a smile, nods at him. So the injured man accepts the pill and swallows it. Suddenly, he begins feeling strange. As he groans in pain, the bandages around him tear apart while his injuries start healing. In seconds, All his injuries heal, and the man, unable to believe it, asks if he is dreaming. The other injured people there notice this and are all shocked. Then they begin begging Shang Yun for the medicine as well and ask for his help. More injured people surround Shang Yun and plead with him, saying they don't want to be crippled. With all the commotion, Diana tells the people to calm down. Shang Yun withdraws a flash and says it contains more of those pills, handing them out to the injured, who all thank him. Diana mentions that these pills must be very valuable and asks Shang Yun if it's okay to hand them out so easily. Shang Yun notes that these pills are not that precious and are just casually concocted consumables. Diana is taken aback hearing Shang Yun refer to the pills as casually concocted. She offers to make a deal with Shang Yun for a long-term purchase of these pills, and Shang Yun asks her to provide more details. Diana explains that the organization will provide funds and materials for the concoction, and in return, Shang Yun will regularly supply them with a certain quantity of pills, then asks what he thinks. Closing his eyes, Shang Yun goes into deep thought and then agrees to the deal. Looking excited, Diana says they can start discussing the details once the visit is over. At that moment, someone's voice asks Diana why she is so happy, prompting all four of them to turn around in surprise. Seeing Libby's Kent, the Platinum Superman, standing against the wall nearby, Diana asks him why he isn't at the headquarters. Libby's Kent mentions that it's not surprising and claims he heard a big shot was visiting, so he rushed over to have a look, then looks at Shang Yun and notes that he must be that person. Smiling maliciously, Libby's Kent says he wants to have a little spar with Shang Yun and asks if he will accept his humble request. Libby's Kent says he wants to have a little spar with Shang Yun and asks if he isn't going to refuse his humble request. Shang Yun remains silent, but Diana interjects, pointing out that Lex should have informed Libby's Kent, and Libby's Kent interrupts, reminding Diana that he isn't Lex's pet. This makes Diana fall silent. Saying it's hard for him to refuse Libby's Kent's enthusiasm, Shang Yun agrees to accept the spar offer. Libby's Kent turns to walk away, saying he and Shang Yun will meet at the training grounds for their spar. Looking concerned, Diana tries to talk Shang Yun out of the match, but Shang Yun assures her not to worry. After some time, Libby's Kent and Shang Yun both arrive at the Fangzhou City branch's live combat training ground. Standing a few feet from each other, Libby's Kent asks Shang Yun if he is ready, and Shang Yun declares he is always ready. Grinning, Libby's Kent says he hopes Shang Yun won't disappoint him, and then he attacks, moving like a bullet and appearing right behind Shang Yun in less than a second, his fist raised to strike. Using the Golden Divine Fist, Libby's Kent aims his punch at Shang Yun, confident that Shang Yun won't be able to see him clearly due to his speed. But Shang Yun, effortlessly and with his eyes closed, raises his hand and stops Libby's Kent's punch without flinching. Libby's Kent is bewildered, his jaw dropping in shock. Shang Yun tells Libby's Kent not to hold back and to attack as much as he wants. Libby's Kent clenches his teeth in anger at Shang Yun for looking down on him this way. He then leaps backward a few meters away from Shang Yun and says that Shang Yun shouldn't have underestimated him. In blinding speed, Libby's Kent lunges at Shang Yun again, his fist raised to attack. But once again, Shang Yun counters Kent's punch with a swing of his hand. Libby's Kent performs a backflip above Shang Yun's head and launches a punch at Shang Yun, which Shang Yun deflects it again. A fierce fight breaks out between Shang Yun and Kent, their movements becoming almost impossible to follow as they exchange punches and kicks at blinding speed around the training ground. Their fight is so brutal that the ground itself begins breaking apart. From the stands, Han Kinkyo is in awe, unable to keep up with the fighter's movements, while the girl beside him remarks that it's impressive. Other spectators are unsure if Shang Yun can match up to Libby's Kent, the Platinum Superman, believing that Kent must be holding back significantly. Meanwhile, Diana realizes it's quite the opposite. It's not Libby's Kent holding back, but Shang Yun. She is certain Libby's Kent must be furious right now, battling someone stronger than him. In the middle of the fight, Libby's Kent tells Shang Yun that merely defending isn't called a spar, and asks why he's unwilling to show his true strength. Shang Yun agrees to take Libby's Kent's advice, saying he will do as Kent wishes, and raises his hand, ready to attack back. Suddenly a powerful force pushes Libby's Kent backward, taking him by surprise. But Libby's Kent gives a triumphant look, excited to finally see Shang Yun's true strength. Watching from the stands, Diana exclaims that Shang Yun's power is incredible. Shang Yun, with his palms raised high and pointing forward, conjures a massive energy hand, which he thrusts toward Libby's Kent. Seeing the attack closing in, Libby's Kent raises his fist high, bracing himself to counter the incoming blow. As the massive hand inches toward Libby's Kent, he pushes his fist forward and punches it with great power. The shockwave from Libby's Kent's punch creates cracks in the ground below, like shattered glass. With his mouth wide open and a loud yell, Libby's Kent channels all his force into the punch. A bright glow of energy illuminates Libby's Kent's face as he struggles and clenches his teeth, realizing that Shang Yun is too powerful. 5 minutes ago, in the Fangzhou City branch, two people walk along the corridor, engaged in conversation. Lin Guang, the crisis advisor dispatched by the federal government and under the control of the Dark Alliance, notes that the Dark Alliance has been attacking Fangzhou City frequently and asks the other man if their personnel can handle it. Supervisor Luo Lian says his people are holding up fine and haven't suffered a major loss so far, to which Lin Guang responds that it's good to hear and inquires about the extent of the damage in Fangzhou City. Luo Lian explains that there has been extensive building destruction and over 100 civilian casualties. He adds that they have been quite lucky, thinking to himself that without Shang Yun, the casualties would have increased tenfold. Lin Guang sighs and says he doesn't know when these attacks will end, then asks if the Central Information Database is unaffected. Luo Lian assures Lin Guang that the Central Information Database is equipped with the most advanced defense systems, making it impossible to breach, and that only those with authority can enter. Lin Guang gives a smirk upon learning all this information. Luo Lian gestures to his right, directing Lin Guang toward the briefing hall, where, despite it being working hours, the area is unusually empty. Seeing the lack of surveillance, Lin Guang grows suspicious. Luo Lian explains that Platinum Superman Libby's Kent is having a match, so most people must have gone to watch it. Luo Lian is certain that Kent's opponent must be Shang Yun, and he hopes nothing bad will happen. With the area empty and no one around to stop him, Lin Guang decides to take action. As the place begins to shake violently, Luo Lian quickly assumes a defensive stance and shouts to find out what's happening. The nearby wall shatters as Libby's Kent smashes through, heading straight for Lin Guang. Lin Guang coughs up dark fluid. Libby's Kent smashes onto him, taking him completely by surprise. Lin Guang and Libby's Kent both crash into the next wall, breaking it apart and sending debris flying everywhere. Seeing this, Luo Lian shouts out in concern, calling for Lin Guang. Cursing under his breath, Libby's Kent pushes himself off the ground, revealing an unconscious and dazed Lin Guang behind him. As Libby's Kent gets to his feet, he admits he just exerted too much force and tells Luo Lian not to make a big fuss about it. Libby's Kent leaves through the massive holes in the walls, while Luo Lian watches in shock at the extent of the damage. Remembering Lin Guang is injured, Luo Lian quickly contacts the medical department, urgently requesting assistance at the briefing hall. Shang Yun asks Kent if they should continue, but Libby's Kent notes that they've caused a major accident and damaged the place, so it's best to end it here. Smiling, Libby's Kent extends his hand, saying he hopes they can spar again next time. Shaking Libby's Kent's hand, Shang Yun replies that he hopes there won't be a next time. As Libby's Kent walks away, he declares that he will return. Approaching Shang Yun, Diana comments that Libby's Kent will surely hold a grudge for being held back, and Shang Yun confirms that he did show some restraint. Sighing, Diana says it's not just about holding back and that Shang Yun will understand in the future. She adds that Kent's personality is a bit troublesome while Shang Yun listens in silence. Turning to leave, Diana waves at Shang Yun and the others, saying she needs to assess the extent of the damage, and instructs them to continue showing Shang Yun around from here. Diana also mentions that the qualification assessment is in 2 weeks and asks Han Kinkyo if he will participate. Surprised, Han Kinkyo asks Diana how she knew and expresses his astonishment that an S-class hero is aware of his affairs. Diana smirks. Diana instructs Han Kinkyo to prepare well, saying she has high hopes for him and he agrees. The tour continues with Han Kinkyo taking Shang Yun to the Earth Defender's data repository. The girl asks Shang Yun why he wants to visit this place, mentioning that it's just full of books and files. Shang Yun raises his hand, saying this place will help him quickly understand the world, and prepares to use a spell. He mutters open, causing ripples of energy light to spread throughout the room. The energy moves through the books, scanning them like a high-tech scanner. Suddenly, the texts from the books begin flying out and converge towards Shang Yun in great waves. Han Kinkyo and the girl watch in amazement as the symbols and texts swirl around majestically. After a while, Shang Yun opens his glowing eyes and says he has absorbed all the information in the room, leaving Han Kinkyo bewildered. Getting on his knees, Han Kinkyo begs Shang Yun to teach him the technique. Giving an irritated look, Shang Yun tells Han Kinkyo to stand up first. Han Kinkyo protests, saying he won't get up until Shang Yun teaches him the technique. The girl seems deep in thought and then gathers her courage to speak. Addressing Shang Yun, she requests him to take her as his disciple. Smiling, Shang Yun notes the girl's determination and tells her that training will be very tough, to which the girl assures him she will give it her all. Shang Yun asks if she is certain. Thinking she has failed once again, the girl looks gloomy, but she gets startled when Shang Yun asks why she is still standing there. With a smile, Shang Yun asks if she won't introduce him to other places. Looking delighted, the girl rushes forward to lead Shang Yun, now addressing him as Master. A week later, inside the small world, Shang Yun is seated under a tree, going through a tablet, while Han Kinkyo and the girl are training a little further away. The girl raises her palm, making a blazing fire appear above it, while Han Kinkyo struggles to produce even a small flame. Suddenly, Han Kinkyo loses control of his flame, causing it to burst out as he shields his face with his arms and groans. Gritting his teeth in anger, Han Kinkyo curses under his breath for being stuck at this step again. He punches a nearby tree in frustration, claiming he's doing everything right, but still keeps failing as the qualification assessment is only a week away. Reaching out to calm Han Kinkyo, the girl soothingly assures him not to be anxious, noting that 1 week is more than enough time. But Han Kinkyo snaps at the girl, hitting her arm away and bellows that he can't help but be anxious since he still hasn't mastered the technique. Hearing all this commotion, Shang Yun sighs. He then instructs Han Kinkyo to go and rest for now. Han Kinkyo tries to protest, but Shang Yun informs him that his mind is in turmoil and that continuing to practice will only backfire. Still looking pissed off, Han Kinkyo reluctantly agrees to Shang Yun's command. He storms off, ignoring the girl's concerned calls. Shang Yun turns to the girl and asks her to tell him more about Han Kinkyo. The girl explains that Han Kinkyo wasn't always like this. Inspired by his parents, who were A-class heroes of the Earth Defenders, he decided to become a hero himself. However, fate had other plans for him. 3 years ago, he was one of the first students to advance to the C-class, and everyone believed his future was bright. On the day of the promotion exam, a demon suddenly appeared in the trial grounds, and while others evacuated, Han Kinkyo got trapped inside due to his deep exploration. Fortunately, his parents arrived in time and saved Han Kinkyo, although they sustained severe injuries in the process. Unfortunately, the demon was not weak, and by the time reinforcements arrived, it was too late. Both of Han Kinkyo's parents and the demon had perished, leaving him all alone. After losing his parents, Han Kinkyo embarked on a path of revenge, dedicating himself to intense training with the goal of becoming strong enough to avenge them. Despite his hard work and dedication, his progress has not been as far as he hoped, and he has struggled to pass the assessment while watching others surpass him. The girl concludes that this assessment is Han Kinkyo's last chance to prove himself. Hearing all this, Shang Yun finally understands why Han Kinkyo is so impatient. Meanwhile, Han Kinkyo is sitting all alone by a small cliff, overlooking the ocean, feeling depressed and silent. Walking towards Han Kinkyo from behind, Shang Yun asks him if he has calmed down. In a gloomy voice, Han Kinkyo says this might actually be the end of all his dreams. Shang Yun mentions that, as people say, great talent takes time to mature. Raising his hand and summoning a phoenix-shaped small flame, he reveals that the Nine Suns' profound technique is actually not an offensive spell. Han Kinkyo turns around, looking surprised as Shang Yun claims the technique's true essence lies in the manipulation of qi. As the flames engulf Shang Yun's arm, he says that body and spirit unite, spirit and qi harmonize, and it is a pyramid of transformations. The flames dance around Shang Yun's entire body as he notes that everyone has their own strength and says Han Kinkyo should have his own unique talent too. Hearing this from Shang Yun, Han Kinkyo begins to reflect and remembers his excellence in hardening. With his eyes closed, he takes note of everything Shang Yun has told him and concentrates harder. With his focus, suddenly flames begin appearing. Seeing this, Shang Yun gives a smile. Han Kinkyo slowly opens his eyes, feeling something hot, and then sees flames roaring around both his fists, exclaiming in surprise. Turning to face Shang Yun, Han Kinkyo happily says he did it. Shang Yun declares the rest time is over and tells Han Kinkyo to follow him to continue training. With Shang Yun walking ahead, Han Kinkyo runs after him, his mood now lifted and sounding more confident. The exams have arrived, and Han Kinkyo is in the B-rank qualification assessment preparation room when his name gets called out for the exam. Looking hopeful, the girl assures Han Kinkyo that there won't be any problems since he's already mastered the technique, and Han Kinkyo nods in agreement. Entering the B-rank qualification assessment exam room 2, Han Kinkyo comes face to face with a man standing a few feet away on the other side of the room. Han Kinkyo is determined to pass this time no matter what. The A-rank hero Ralph, with fire ability, is the examiner Han Kinkyo will be facing, and he greets Han Kinkyo. Han Kinkyo seems kind of taken aback to see that it's Ralph. Ralph makes it clear that despite being childhood friends, he won't go easy on Han Kinkyo and warns that with his current strength, he will definitely die in some unknown corner if he continues his hero career. Grinning, Ralph says he will put an end to Han Kinkyo's hero career right now. Han Kinkyo argues back, saying that he is determined to win and will definitely disappoint Ralph. Suddenly, Ralph lunges forward at Han Kinkyo with flames covering his hands, saying Han Kinkyo can talk big once he actually wins. Han Kinkyo gives a startled look as Ralph's fiery fist nears his face. He quickly raises his hand to defend himself, blocking Ralph's punch, but the force of the punch pushes him back a few paces. Ralph doesn't waste a second and, in a flash, appears right behind Han Kinkyo, his hand raised to attack him. He uses the flame fist and launches a massive, powerful punch straight at Han Kinkyo. Landing his hit, Ralph flexes his fist and grins, saying Han Kinkyo doesn't have the skills to back up his big, useless talk. Han Kinkyo's jacket falls to the ground, half burnt by the flames. Looking ahead, Ralph gives a puzzled look as he sees Han Kinkyo actually manage to dodge his attack. Looking down from the observation room above, the girl cheers for Han Kinkyo's success. Ralph asks Han Kinkyo if the technique he used was taught by his rumored master, and acknowledges that Han Kinkyo has indeed made some progress. Han Kinkyo gets into an offensive position, the chi energy radiating from his body as he mentions his master has taught him a lot. Pressing his leg hard on the ground, he propels himself forward with great speed, raising his fist and lunging at Ralph, who is completely taken aback and unable to get out of the way. However, Ralph manages to cross his arms in front of his chest and takes the full force of Han Kinkyo's punch on his crossed arms. The force of the punch sends Ralph flying backward, and he crashes into the wall behind with a deafening crash. Smirking, Han Kinkyo asks Ralph if he is okay. Meanwhile, the spectators are all puzzled, asking how a C-rank hero managed to actually knock away an A-rank hero. With blazing eyes and emitting powerful flames around him, Ralph gets up and says Han Kinkyo's new strength makes things more interesting. He then takes a great leap into the air, right above Han Kinkyo, and declares the second round begins. Bellowing out dazzling blossoms, Ralph begins shooting down fireballs at Han Kinkyo. As the fireballs rain down on him like meteors, Han Kinkyo moves at high speed in zigzag movements, avoiding getting burnt. Ralph prepares a Kamehameha-style attack, charging up his next attack as he tells Han Kinkyo to just quit if he doesn't have the strength to fight back. Ralph continues mocking Han Kinkyo as he shoots the massive fireball straight at him. Unable to dodge or move out of the way, Han Kinkyo crosses his arms before his face and takes the full force of the fireball, causing him to be pushed backward with force. He clenches his teeth as he struggles to keep the fireball from blowing him up. Applying all his force, he deflects the fireball away from him, causing it to fly toward the wall and explode against it. Ralph quickly prepares to use another move, saying he will see if Han Kinkyo can break through this time. A huge dragon's head-shaped flame bellows out from Ralph, flying straight towards Han Kinkyo. As the flame dragon roars at him, Han Kinkyo swiftly moves out of its way, dodging it. But the flame dragon turns back around like a frisbee and propels toward Han Kinkyo once more. Seeing this, Han Kinkyo realizes he can't dodge. As the flame dragon inches closer to him, Han Kinkyo decides to confront it. Closing his eyes, he remembers Shang Yun's words. Then he fixes his body posture into an offensive mode, noting that success or failure will all come down to what he does next. Like a bullet, Han Kinkyo cuts through the flame dragon, and before Ralph can even react, he launches a powerful punch right into his gut. From the force of the punch, Ralph is sent flying backward and slams into the wall once again, shattering it. With this, the announcer announces that the assessment is complete and Han Kinkyo has passed, with his assessment rating being S. His body bruised from burns and looking exhausted, Han Kinkyo flexes his fist and declares that he succeeded. Han Kinkyo successfully passes the assessment with an S rating and gets promoted to a rank, even surprising himself. Getting to his feet, Ralph acknowledges that since Han Kinkyo beat him, it's only natural for him to be promoted to a rank. With a smile, Ralph congratulates Han Kinkyo, calling him a leopard, and reaches out for a fist bump. Han Kinkyo returns the smile and fist bumps Ralph, who admits he had to use his full strength to push Han Kinkyo to give it his all. Han Kinkyo teasingly asks Ralph if it wasn't just for his own satisfaction, and Ralph, with a guilty smile, agrees it might have been, just a little. Then, Ralph playfully puts his arm around Han Kinkyo, asking him about the move he used earlier, and whether his master taught it to him, leading to a cheerful conversation between them. Watching from the spectator seats, the girl seems very pleased with Han Kinkyo's success. At that moment, the announcer calls out the girl's name, asking her to head to examination room 1 as it's her turn now. Meanwhile, at the Fengzhou City Hospital, lying on the hospital bed, Lin Guang regains consciousness. Seeing Lin Guang awake, a man standing nearby looks pleased as Lin Guang asks how long he was unconscious. The man informs Lin Guang that he has been out for 4 hours and suggests he should contact supervisor Luo Lian. Suddenly, the dark, slimy thing from Lin Guang's body shoots out at the man's face, catching him by surprise. With an evil smile, Lin Guang asks the man if he happens to know God's number. At Ling Family Manor, inside the hall, a party is in full swing as a man standing in the middle raises his glass and announces they are here to celebrate Ling Xiaohan passing the B-rank assessment. Holding a big mug of drink, Ralph declares he won't let Han Kinkyo leave until they are completely drunk, and Han Kinkyo challenges Ralph to see who can drink more. Diana is also among the celebrating crowd as 2 women recognize her and express surprise at seeing an S-rank hero here too. Meanwhile, Shang Yun is standing alone outside by the veranda, looking at the lake stretched out before him, with Cupper sitting next to him. Cupper comments that this gathering feels similar to the night parade of 100 demons in their hometown. Shang Yun agrees, and Cupper asks him if he won't go in and join the celebration with the others. Shang Yun says he will pass and notes that he has long lost the desire for noise and commotion. Giving a baffled look, Cupper asks Shang Yun why he is acting like an old man. At that moment, someone arrives, calling out to Shang Yun. Smiling broadly, Ling Xiaohan says she couldn't find Shang Yun and thought he had already left. She asks if the party is too noisy and bothersome for him, but Shang Yun tells Ling Xiaohan not to worry about him, pointing out that it's good for young people to be lively. Walking to stand beside Shang Yun, Ling Xiaohan says she is truly grateful to have him as her master and claims that without his guidance, she and Han Kinkyo might not have passed their assessments. With an even wider smile and a look of gratitude, Ling Xiaohan says she really appreciates Shang Yun. Seeing such loyalty from Ling Xiaohan, Shang Yun is speechless. He then mentions that Ling Xiaohan has good talent and the entire Ling family to support her, and asks why she chose him as her master. Ling Xiaohan gives it a long thought and says it's because she wants to prove herself. She explains that the Ling family was one of the original members of Earth's Guardians, and that the key to the Ling family's strength lies in the emergence of talented individuals. She mentions that while her family might have thrown a grand feast for her, few actually care about her and are more concerned with her elder brothers, who are seen as the future of the Ling family. Moreover, she claims she doesn't want to be in her brother's shadow and wants to prove her worth. She mentions that when she saw Shang Yun's technique the other day, she realized it was her chance for change and chose him as her master. In response to Ling Xiaohan, Shang Yun recalls his training days and his goal of ascending to the immortal realm to prove himself to those who look down on him, breaking into a smile at the memory. And he points out that the path of cultivation is difficult and long but guarantees that someday, everyone will acknowledge Ling Xiaohan. Hearing these kind words, Ling Xiaohan looks very pleased. At the Earth Defense Division Supervisory Office, the assistant possessed by the Dark Alliance enters with a report. Luo Lian, sitting at his desk, instructs him to place it on the table. As the assistant sets the report down, he asks Luo Lian why he didn't attend the Lin family's banquet tonight. Luo Lian, looking tired and overworked, replies that there's no way he can go anywhere with the overload of work from the recent incidents. He then advises the assistant to rest as well, noting that he has also been overworked, but the assistant suddenly gives an evil grin. Suddenly Luo Lian senses danger as something heavy and sharp comes crashing down onto the table in front of him, startling him. The assistant, who is just attacked, laughs mockingly and says that Luo Lian catches on quickly. Jumping to his feet, with his fists raised in a defensive stance, Luo Lian demands to know who the assistant really is. The assistant, with glowing, transforms his hand into a sharp blade and sneers, telling Luo Lian to go ask God, then charges forward. Luo Lian reacts quick, blocking the assistant's blade hand with one arm while channeling energy into his other hand, ready to attack back. And then Luo Lian delivers a punch straight to the assistant's gut, sending him flying backward across the room. The assistant crashes forcefully into a nearby wall with a crash. Coughing up blood, the assistant looks up in shock, not expecting Luo Lian to possess such strength and resilience. Luo Lian walks closer to the assistant, looking down at him with a cold expression, saying that he underestimated him and made a grave mistake. The assistant gives no immediate response, his head lolling down as if he's fainted, but Luo Lian senses something is off. Unbeknownst to Luo Lian, he is standing right on top of a dark, gooey substance that has started to spread across the floor. Suddenly, the dark gooey substance sends out rope-like tendrils, wrapping around Luo Lian's arms and legs, binding him tightly. With a bloodied face and glowing red eyes, the assistant smirks victoriously, claiming that he's got Luo Lian now. Struggling against the tight bonds, Luo Lian realizes he is unable to move, and his eyes widen in shock as he notices something even more sinister beginning to surround him. Within moments, both Luo Lian and the assistant are trapped inside a large, round, hollow structure, the dark energy pulsing around them. The dark energy then engulfs Luo Lian's entire body, seeping into his skin and starting to possess him, taking control. Now fully under its influence, Luo Lian's eyes lose their focus, and he is no longer himself, a puppet to the dark force. Pushing up his glasses, the possessed Luo Lian smirks, stating that the doors to the central information database have finally been opened to him. He strides confidently into the main central information database room, and begins searching through the files, accessing restricted data. Pulling up data on the large screen, the possessed Luo Lian notes aloud that this information should reveal where the Holy Lord is being held captive. With this crucial information, he speaks into his earpiece, notifying someone that he has found the exact location of the Holy Lord. A sinister laugh escapes his lips as he declares that the era of demons has finally come, and the world will soon bow to their power. However, deep within, Luo Lian's true self begins to fight back, struggling to expel the demon that has taken over his body, unwilling to let it win. Sweat pours down his face as Luo Lian summons all his willpower, knowing that if the data falls into the wrong hands, it could lead to unimaginable chaos and destruction. With a tremendous effort, he manages to fully expel the dark entity possessing him, letting out a loud, primal scream that echoes through the room. The spirit monster, now separated from Luo Lian, curses in rage and frustration, deciding to retreat for now. Barely able to stand and coughing heavily, Luo Lian reaches out with trembling hands, pressing a red button on the control panel. Meanwhile, back at the Ling family manor, everyone is busy celebrating and enjoying themselves. Suddenly, Diana, who is among the guests, receives a high-priority warning about the base being invaded, urgently requesting all combat personnel to return immediately for reinforcement. Diana and Platinum Superman, Libby's Kent, look up, watching the massive ship as it cruises towards them. The door of the ship slides open, revealing the S-Class hero, Lex Russo. Lex Russo asks for an update, and Libby's Ken explains that the situation is dire due to a breach in the central database, while Diana adds that this could mean a large-scale invasion is imminent. Diana mentions that all B-class and above combat personnel in the Super God Association have been assembled, but Lex Russo insists that this isn't enough. They'll need the full strength of the Earth defense. He notes that they must contact headquarters first to secure more support, raise the alert level to the highest, and arrange for personnel to patrol around the clock. Lex Russo wears a determined and serious expression, knowing the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, Shang Yun is meditating inside the small world, sitting by a tranquil waterfall. He opens his eyes and looks at the symbol before him, which begins glowing a bright golden color. Cupper, noticing the change, asks Shang Yun what's wrong. Shang Yun says he's sensing signs of a turbulent change in the wind and thinks he'll need to refine more elixirs soon. Standing up abruptly with a hopeful look in his eyes, Cupper asks if a major battle is about to happen, saying he hasn't been in a big fight for centuries. Shang Yun tells Cupper not to get any ideas about running rampant, and looking annoyed, Cupper calls Shang Yun stingy. The next day in Zone C of Fangzhou City, Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan are patrolling the streets. Han Kinkyo asks Ling Xiaohan if she thinks an attack will occur soon, and Ling Xiaohan says she's unsure but notes that it's always good to be prepared. Raising his fist, Han Kinkyo declares that the Dark Alliance better not cross paths with him, or he won't let them live. Ling Xiaohan tells him to calm down and stay focused. Suddenly, a loud scream fills the air, startling both Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan. At the Earth Defense Command Center, the observer watching the screens informs Lex Russo that Sector C, Block 3 is under attack and mentions there are 2 heroes nearby. Lex Russo orders the observer to keep monitoring and determine the enemy's identity as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan are sprinting toward the source of the scream, moving quickly through the city streets. After running for a while, they arrive at an intersection, and Han Kinkyo's eyes widen in shock as he looks ahead. He sees the attacker, a terrifying figure in a red costume with a mask covering his entire face, holding a large sword and standing atop the people he just killed. The attacker turns to see Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan, noting their quick arrival, and says he will retreat for now. But Han Kinkyo tells the attacker not to think about running and charges at him, his fist raised. Han Kinkyo's punch lands solidly, pushing the attacker a meter backward, surprising him. Ling Xiaohan joins the fight, slashing her sword through the air, sending a spatial blade at the attacker. The attacker swiftly flips and leaps sideways, dodging Ling Xiaohan's attack with agility. In a flash, Han Kinkyo appears right behind the attacker, his fist drawn back, ready to land another punch. The attacker raises 2 fingers and makes a gesture, which causes Ling Xiaohan to realize something is not right. As Han Kinkyo punches the attacker, his fist passes through the attacker's body as if it's made of gas, leaving him stunned. Seeing this, Han Kinkyo is shocked, not understanding what just happened. Ling Xiaohan raises her hand and causes an explosion, turning the attacker's body into a vapor-like substance that dissipates. She turns to Han Kinkyo, asking if he's alright, and he nods, saying he's fine and thanking Ling Xiaohan for her quick thinking. Looking up, they see the attacker standing on top of a street lamp, completely unhurt, and Han Kinkyo mutters that dealing with him won't be easy. Back at the command center, multiple warnings flash across the huge map of the city, indicating that many places are under attack simultaneously. The observer tells Lex Russo that he has identified the attackers as the Blood Shadow Assassin, operating under the command of an S-Class demon. Lex Russo quickly orders more personnel to evacuate civilians and contacts Diana to have B-Class and above personnel mobilized for disaster relief. Lex Russo is aware that the Blood Shadow Assassins cannot operate without their leader, and he intends to find and eliminate him. Meanwhile, the leader, standing at the highest point in the city on a tall pole, looks down with a smirk, wondering where the demon is being held captive. Standing on top of the central skyscraper are two figures, continuously updated on the rapid elimination of the Blood Shadow Assassins below. The leader of the Blood Shadow Assassins, an S-class demon, acknowledges the Earth's defenders' swift response following the attacks. The other man in glasses asks how much longer until their formation is complete. The leader growls that it will be ready soon, just in time for his Blood Shadow Assassin Corps to enjoy some fun with the heroes, as he activates the vampire bloodline technique. As a result of the technique, the Blood Shadow Assassins fighting below on the streets become frenzied and significantly stronger. Observing the Blood Shadow's strange behavior, Ling Xiaohan remarks that it looks suspicious. The Blood Shadow Assassin extends his hands and looks upward, while dark strands of blood-like energy rise around him. The dark strands of blood fly toward the dead civilians, entering their bodies and reanimating them as if they've become zombies. With their eyes glowing and savage expressions, the zombies growl loudly and charge forward. Stunned, Han Kinkyo exclaims that this must be a bad joke. Meanwhile, back at Command Center, the observer informs Lex Rousseau of a sudden spike in abnormal life reaction. Lex Rousseau identifies it as a vampire technique and warns the heroes to exercise extreme caution until more reinforcements arrive. Watching the large screen, Lex Rousseau realizes that the enemy is attempting to scatter the heroes by launching simultaneous attacks across multiple regions, likely preparing for something larger. On the skyscraper rooftop, the man in glasses asks about the status, and the leader confirms that everything is proceeding as planned. The heroes have been diverted, and the magic circle is nearly complete. The man in glasses asks what comes next, and the leader, with a sinister grin, says they will now initiate their true plan. The Blood Shadow Assassins in various parts of the city stand in silence, receiving signals from their leader. Following their orders, the Blood Assassins begin a ritual, forming a circle of blood around them with a star-shaped symbol in the center. Suddenly, a torrent of blood energy erupts from the circle, soaring toward the sky. From an aerial view, numerous torrents of blood energy can be seen rising from different parts of the city, surpassing the height of the tallest skyscrapers. A massive circle of blood starts to form above the city from the converging torrents of energy. The Blood Assassin's leader begins to laugh maniacally, offering the bloodline sacrifice to his divine lord. He shouts, asking his lord to transform the polluted old world into a sea of fire and allow the new world to be reborn from the ashes. Cupper's senses tingle as he feels something unsettling and asks Shang Yun if he senses it too. Shang Yun confirms that there is a surge of energy and something ominous is responding to it. Rising to his feet, Shang Yun suggests they should investigate, and Cupper eagerly agrees, saying he was waiting for Shang Yun to say that. Meanwhile, back at Command Center, the observer, looking alarmed, tells Lex Rousseau that multiple convergence points have been detected. Lex Rousseau suspects that the enemies are attempting a forced resonance. At the X-base, where the demon is sealed, the system triggers a warning about abnormal energy readings and increased activity from the captive's organism. Dr. Bede hastily orders an increase in the power of Suppressor 2 by another 20%, and, due to Suppressor 5 overloading, instructs to switch to Suppressor 12. Someone shouts that Suppressors 7 and 9 have exploded. At that moment, Lex Rousseau arrives to see chaos unfolding, with people rushing around, trying to manage the escalating situation. Realizing the situation is more severe than anticipated, Lex Rousseau quickly instructs Dr. Bede to organize a repair team and says he will attempt to suppress the demon's revival in the meantime. With concern etched on his face, Dr. Bede warns Lex Rousseau that even with his formidable psychic abilities, he risks death. Radiating a powerful aura and with his eyes glowing, Lex Rousseau declares that as long as he can delay the demon's awakening, his own life is a small price to pay compared to the safety of the world. Lex Rousseau raises both hands high, unleashing intense energy beams at the demon lord to delay its awakening, while Dr. Bede urgently directs the maintenance team to start repairs immediately. Despite their best efforts, the demon lord's activity continues to rise, reaching a troubling level of 62%. Lex Rousseau grits his teeth, pushing his energy output to its limits, determined to hold off the demon lord. At this crucial moment, Shang Yun teleports behind Lex Rousseau, startling him with his sudden and unexpected arrival. Shang Yun conjures a large, round barrier covered in strange symbols, and places it directly in front of the demon lord to provide a crucial shield. Back at Command Center, the observer, glancing at the monitor, offers a relieved smile as he reports that the demon lord's activation has stopped. Lex Rousseau, turning to Shang Yun with gratitude, thanks him for his timely help and asks how he managed to locate this critical location. Shang Yun explains that he traced the intense energy fluctuations, which guided him straight to this location, showcasing his acute awareness of energy pattern. He then asks Lex Rousseau if there are any additional tasks needed, to which Lex Rousseau replies that there are no further immediate requirement. Lex Rousseau, now facing Shang Yun with a serious expression, mentions he has another favor to ask. Meanwhile, in Fangzhou City's District C, Han Qinkyo and Ling Xiaohan are engaged in a fierce battle against zombies, resurrected by the Blood Shadow Assassin's dark powers. Despite their relentless efforts, more and more corpses are turned into zombies, adding to the chow. Han Qinkyo realizes that they need to focus on eliminating the Blood Shadow Assassin who is controlling these reanimated corpses. Ling Xiaohan offers to create an opening for Han Qinkyo, saying she will clear a path to allow him to strike at their primary target. She skillfully slices through several zombies, creating a clear route for Han Qinkyo to advance and launch a decisive attack. Seizing the opportunity, Han Qinkyo propels himself forward at high speed, making a powerful attack aimed directly at the Blood Shadow Assassin. The Blood Shadow Assassin starts coughing up dark blood as a result of Han Qinkyo's fierce assault. With the Blood Shadow Assassin defeated, Ling Xiaohan emphasizes that they now need to focus on destroying the formation. They quickly move towards the formation in District C, determined to put an end to its disturbing effects. Upon arrival, they see the formation producing grotesque creatures. Han Qinkyo observes that the formation resembles a military factory, shocked by what he's seeing. Ling Xiaohan suggests focusing on the central tumor of the formation rather than the vampires, and Han Qinkyo agrees, asking if she plans to use their special move. Ling Xiaohan confirms her plan, saying they should conserve their strength for the main attack, and Han Qinkyo agrees as they prepare to act. The two heroes stand back to back, raising their hands and pointing two fingers at the tumor, channeling their chi into a powerful combined attack. They invoke the Thunder Dragon technique, summoning a formidable energy dragon that roars to life and charges toward the tumor. The dragon flies forward, incinerating the vampires in its path, and continues towards the tumor, which retaliates with its own dark energy. The dragon clashes with the tumor's attack, and Han Qinkyo and Ling Xiaohan increase their energy output, urging the dragon to overpower the tumor. The energy dragon emerges victorious, pushing through the tumor's defenses and continuing its relentless advance. With a tremendous explosion, the tumor is shattered as the energy dragon crashes into it. Han Qinkyo and Ling Xiaohan cheer triumphantly, celebrating their success in destroying the tumor. Suddenly, a massive force crashes down in front of them, sending debris and dust into the air as they shield their faces from the impact. From within the thickening smoke, a figure slowly becomes visible, speaking ominously and adding to the tension of the moment. As the dust settles, the leader of the Blood Shadow Assassins appears, looking furious and declaring that Han Qinkyo and Ling Xiaohan will pay dearly for their actions. Han Qinkyo, taken aback by the leader's sudden appearance, instinctively recoils in fear. He senses the overwhelming power and threat emanating from the Blood Shadow Assassin's leader, as the leader reaches for his swords, preparing for a confrontation. The Bloodline Assassin leader declares that Han Qinkyo and Ling Xiaohan will pay for their defiance. Raising his hand, he taunts them to struggle all they want as the ground around them becomes covered in ominous waves of blood. Han Qinkyo and Ling Xiaohan brace themselves, startled as they find themselves standing over a vast pool of blood. Two massive torrents of blood surge from the pool, towering menacingly over Han Qinkyo and Ling Xiaohan. Dark, slimy, and transparent hands suddenly emerge from the pool of blood, grabbing onto Han Qinkyo's legs with a vice-like grip. Screaming in terror, Han Qinkyo sees his legs firmly ensnared, immobilizing him and rendering him helpless. Rage and fear mix on Han Qinkyo's face as he curses and sweats profusely. As a wave of blood crashes down, Han Qinkyo crosses his arms, summoning a spatial barrier for protection, while Ling Xiaohan generates a shield around herself. The Bloodline Assassin leader grins menacingly, standing atop the massive wave of blood, and swings his sword, sending a flurry of deadly blades towards Han Qinkyo and Ling Xiaohan. The pool of blood convulses violently with each blade attack hitting Han Qinkyo. Despite his barrier, the attacks leave painful cuts across his body. Suddenly, the assassin leader charges at Han Qinkyo with both swords raised high, catching him completely off guard. The force of the assassin leader's attack sends Han Qinkyo and Ling Xiaohan flying backward, and Ling Xiaohan lets out a startled cry. Moments later, both heroes crash into the blood pool, their bodies submerged in the viscous liquid. The blood traps them, binding their hands above their heads and causing them to cough and choke from the filthy substance. The assassin leader, licking his sword with a sinister smile, approaches Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan, expressing his disappointment in their apparent weakness. Pointing his sword threateningly at Ling Xiaohan's neck, the assassin leader taunts her, suggesting her master must be weak, prompting Ling Xiaohan to warn him against insulting her master. The assassin leader laughs cruelly and reveals his plan to use Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan as bait to draw out their master. When Ling Xiaohan dares him to kill them, the assassin leader coldly responds that he has no intention of ending their lives so easily. Instead, he plans to make them witness their master's desperation, adding to their torment. Han Kinkyo shouts at the assassin leader, calling him a coward and predicting his inevitable demise. The assassin leader taunts Han Kinkyo to continue cursing while he still can, as the blood around them begins to swirl menacingly. In an instant, Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan are engulfed by the swirling blood, forming a dark, swirling ball around them. The blood ball then vanishes into thin air, transporting Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan away. They reappear atop the central skyscraper. The man in glasses, looking down at the unconscious bodies of Ling Xiaohan and Han Kinkyo, reveals their plan to use them in a ritual to incarnate the deity of the Holy Lord. So he orders the assassin leader not to kill them, warning it would thwart the incarnation, and the assassin leader agrees. Meanwhile, at Base X, doctors monitor the situation closely as Lex Rousseau inquires about their status. Dr. Bede reports that the readings have stabilized, indicating that the immediate threat has been mitigated. Someone contacts Lex Rousseau via earpiece, asking about the situation at Base X, and Lex explains that a magic circle nearly awakened the Demon Lord, but it has been resealed with Shang Yun's help. The S-Class hero, Gandalf, currently battling, acknowledges their debt to Shang Yun, while Lex Rousseau urges through the earpiece to hasten the destruction of the remaining 3 magic circles. The Divine Emperor and S-Class hero, Call, confirms his readiness as he blasts enemies away with his powerful gun. Lord of Beast Island, Hank, assures Lex Rousseau that they will handle the rest, using his sharp claws to slash through the blood. Meanwhile, Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan are bound to crosses with sharp blood-stained nails piercing their hands and shoulders, subjected to a brutal form of captivity. The assassin leader laughs triumphantly, eagerly anticipating the reaction of their master, confident it will be a sight to behold. At that moment, a voice declares that the assassin leader will be disappointed, as electricity crackles ominously behind him, catching him by surprise. Getting on his guard, the assassin leader asks who's there. Shang Yun, hovering a few feet above the assassin leader, replies that he is the one the assassin leader is looking for. Looking down at the assassin leader, Shang Yun tells him that he is the one the heroes are searching for. Seeing Shang Yun there, Han Kinkyo turns to him, calling out, "Master!" Hearing this, the assassin leader realizes that Shang Yun is the master of Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan, and notes that he is the one who killed Kimura. In an annoyed tone, Shang Yun says he's not interested in knowing about the defeated, and with his eyes glowing, he says he is more interested in the assassin leader. Grinning, the assassin leader asks Shang Yun if he wants to make the first move, while feeling a bit intimidated by his intense aura pressure. Sweating slightly from fear, the assassin leader warns Shang Yun that if he attacks, someone will die, and sends spiked blood towards Han Kinkyo. Reacting swiftly, Shang Yun raises his hand and summons a powerful barrier around Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan, protecting them from the attacks. Seeing this, the assassin leader TSKS in anger. He then prepares another move, causing the blood to swirl around him in great waves, while Shang Yun watches in silence. Now looking stronger and his body enhanced, the assassin leader calls out Shang Yun for looking very confident, and tells him he will regret it. Then, he prepares to dash towards Shang Yun, with his feet pressed onto the ground very hard, holding a massive sword in one hand. With powerful force, he pushes himself forward, right at Shang Yun, shouting at him to die, the red blood wings extended behind him. Shang Yun sees the assassin leader is using blood armament and finds it quite interesting. Dodging aside as the assassin leader swoops past him, Shang Yun says the assassin leader is too slow. The assassin leader stops midair, turns in rage, and bellows that Shang Yun is arrogant, then swipes his sword, sending blood light slashes at him. Shang Yun raises his hand in front of him, deflecting all the blood slashes away that rain down upon a building. The entire building crumbles and gets destroyed, tanking the whole attack. Seeing this, the assassin leader smirks, calling Shang Yun overconfident, but also acknowledges that Shang Yun is very self-aware. Moreover, he realizes this must have been why Kimura died by Shang Yun's hand. Nevertheless, the assassin leader prepares another attack, prays to his lord, raises his hand, summons a wave of dark energy, and a large circular rune appears above him. Huge waves of blood fly toward the assassin leader from all directions as a massive circular rune appears above the smaller one, and a laser-like beam descends from the larger rune to the smaller one. Witnessing all this, Shang Yun wonders if this energy fluctuation is a divine descent. Meanwhile, the assassin leader groans powerfully as if he is having a constipation. With a smirk on his face and his large tongue lolling out, he raises his sword, ready to attack. In a flash, he dashes past Shang Yun, swinging his sword 100 times at him, saying Shang Yun will die under the power of the Lord. After the successful attack, the assassin leader turns back to see Shang Yun's condition but gets startled at the sight. Shang Yun, who seems unaffected by the assassin leader's powerful attack, asks him if that's all. Clenching his teeth, the assassin leader is unable to believe how his attack was ineffective against Shang Yun. He then prepares for another round of attack as blood begins swirling around him. From afar, the assassin leader stands engulfed in blood at the center, as massive waves of crimson rise from every corner of the city, converging around him. Breathing heavily and with his eyes flashing, the assassin leader says he will bury the city along with Shang Yun now. As blood begins surrounding him from all directions, Shang Yun looks around, unsure of what's happening. A second later, Shang Yun gets engulfed by blood, forming a massive orb around him that slams down, crushing dozens of buildings in one go. Bathed in golden energy, Shang Yun tells his 2 students that it's too early for them to cultivate inner elixirs, so he will teach them the art of outer elixirs. He continues explaining the process of cultivating outer elixirs, which involves refining true lead and white gold into a golden elixir using a powerful flame that channels the energy of Yang. He explains that both internal and external medicines originate from primordial ancestral qi, highlighting the importance of the correct sequence for achieving the elixir, where external medicines are collected first and internal medicines are gathered after birth. After explaining, Shang Yun opens his eyes to find his 2 students looking dazed and confused, having not understood a word, and they ask him to repeat. Seeing his students so incompetent, Shang Yun sighs and says he will now share his notes with them. Looking excited, Ling Xiaohan says that's great, but Han Kinkyo, not looking pleased, says he is not good at reading. Shang Yun claims there are only a few thousand volumes to read, hearing which, both students stand up abruptly, shocked and bewildered. Ruffling his hair, Han Kinkyo complains that a few thousand volumes are too many and hopes someone could learn on his behalf, to which Ling Xiaohan says it might be possible. Looking unsure, Han Kinkyo asks if that's actually possible, and Ling Xiaohan explains that it's AI. Han Kinkyo praises Ling Xiaohan for her genius thinking, and Ling Xiaohan gives a proud look, but Shang Yun is puzzled, not understanding what AI is. So he asks them what they are referring to and what AI is. Taking out her tablet, Ling Xiaohan explains that AI is a technology that simulates human intelligence and behavior, and by inputting data into it, it can process it and give results. Not only that, Ling Xiaohan tells Shang Yun that AI can control many devices simultaneously and claims she heard the 3rd-gen version is capable of making robots move as agilely as humans. Hearing all this, Shang Yun thinks this AI is quite similar to alchemy and spiritual cultivation in mystical arts. Then, he takes the tablet from Ling Xiaohan and walks away, telling the 2 to practice on their own, making them both look puzzled. Raising his paw while lying down on a rug, Cupper assures the 2 not to worry about Shang Yun and reveals that whenever Shang Yun gets an idea, he goes into seclusion. Not knowing what seclusion is, Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan are even more puzzled. Meanwhile, Shang Yun is examining the AI while in his seclusion form, focusing on his inner contemplation. Shang Yun learns that AI, lacking a physical form, operates in virtual networks to perform tasks, while in alchemy and spiritual cultivation, mystical arts infuse life and spiritual energy into objects, turning them into immortal tools. With this, he decides to combine these 2 forms of mental cores as one. As a result of the combination, something white and cloudy forms, swirling around like a storm. From the swirling thing, a girl curled up becomes visible, followed by her whole body. She then begins walking forward, large glasses on her eyes, and a grim expression on her face. Somewhere in the dark mountain range, an old man is chopping firewood outside his house, wearing thick clothes. Tired from all the chopping, he wipes the sweat off his forehead and gives a long sigh. At that moment, he senses someone or something behind him and gets on his guard. Turning around, he sees someone walking towards him from a distance. The stranger, covered in a traveling cloak, walks towards the old man and stands before him. Kneeling and saluting, the stranger identifies the old man as the Dark King, Lord of the Dark Alliance, and says he has come on the leader's orders, humbly requesting his presence. But the old man turns away and raises his, declaring he's not interested and making it clear he hasn't joined the Dark Alliance yet. He then throws the axe onto the tree stump and says the Dark Alliance still hasn't settled the matter of kidnapping his disciple, and then walks towards his house, telling the informant to go back and leave him in peace. The informant, with a red glow in his eyes, reminds the Dark King that his disciple was killed and asks if he doesn't want revenge. These words cause the Dark King to halt, and he swiftly turns around, with murderous eyes warning the informant to repeat his words. Without warning, the Dark King raises his hand at the informant and shoots him with an energy laser attack. The informant, looking a little concerned, now with his collar grabbed by the Dark King, gives a nervous laugh and says even if the Dark King kills him, it won't change anything. The Dark King asks the informant who killed his disciple, and the informant reveals it was the Dark King's former employer. Suddenly, large boils begin appearing on the informant's face, rendering him puzzled. As blood splatters across the Dark King's face from the informant's face exploding, he notes that his former employers are the Earth Guardians. The massive orb of blood, so large it covers an entire block of the city, smashes down on the buildings below. From its powerful shockwaves, buildings and structures begin breaking apart and crumbling. The assassin leader, radiating blood energy, bellows out loudly, saying his master's power will crush Shang Yun. Looking victorious, the assassin leader also declares that now no one can stop the revival of his master. But suddenly, rays of light fly past the assassin leader, startling him and halting his laughter. These light rays are coming out from the massive blood orb, and the rays grow in number, now emitting from every part of the blood orb. A second later, the blood orb gets destroyed and vanishes into thin air, revealing Shang Yun at the center, unhurt and completely fine. With a calm expression and his body glowing with light energy, Shang Yun has a number of swords summoned beside him. Seeing all this, the assassin leader is bewildered, his jaw wide open in shock. He shouts out that he just used the great power bestowed upon him by his master and asks how Shang Yun managed to shatter it. Saying this, he charges forward at Shang Yun, now bloodlust and his fist raised to attack him. Meanwhile, Shang Yun merely mocks the assassin leader, asking him if that's all he's got and calling him pitiful. Then, he gestures his hand forward, causing the light swords beside him to sail forward. The swords fly toward the approaching assassin leader, who is startled by their sudden appearance. But too late to react, the swords all strike his body. With half a dozen swords piercing the assassin leader, Shang Yun summons another massive sword that descends upon him. The sword hits the assassin leader and pushes him down, collapsing straight onto a skyscraper, shattering it to rubble. The shockwave of the golden sword striking the ground is so massive it travels in all directions, covering the entire city. The formation hovering high above the city begins shattering and then falls apart like glass. Somewhere in the city, Gandalf notices the large sword sticking out of the ground and turns around in puzzlement. He wonders if the person who summoned the sword is really the mysterious hero from before. Meanwhile, the dude in glasses and the assassin leader's friend note that Shang Yun is actually the real monster. Agreeing their plan has failed, he decides to escape and takes off from the rooftop. Suddenly, Shang Yun senses a strange energy emitting and, in puzzlement, turns sideways. He notices the dude in glasses is trying to run away. He then mutters, "Disperse," emitting multiple golden rays and causing the sword to light up and turn into massive flames. As energy swords begin to appear, Shang Yun utters, "Freeze," and the entire sky becomes covered with them. Again, Shang Yun shouts out, "Annihilate," causing the swords to fly forward towards his intended targets. The swords begin piercing through the waves of blood, destroying them. An enemy pierced by the swords finds his body starting to disintegrate and looks completely taken by surprise. Feeling his life force draining, he asks how it's possible. Back at the command center, the observer bellows that the enemies have vanished, the formation is destroyed, and energy levels are normal, declaring the crisis averted. Others there are unable to believe they actually won, and then they begin cheering and celebrating their victory. Amidst all these happy people, Lex Rousseau has a wide smile on his face. Looking at the screen, Lex Rousseau watches Shang Yun and agrees the victory is all thanks to him. After the last battle, as everything settles, Shang Yun's picture is broadcasted all over Fangzhou City, with numerous witnesses confirming him as their savior, and his deeds reported by almost all media. In a matter of days, Shang Yun has now become a blazing new star, gaining a large number of followers and admirers. However, despite his fame, Shang Yun remains oblivious to it and continues as he was before, about to teach his two students the art of alchemy. Bathed in golden energy, Shang Yun tells his two students that it's too early for them to cultivate inner elixirs, so he will teach them the art of outer elixirs. He continues explaining the process of cultivating outer elixirs, which involves refining true lead and white gold into a golden elixir, using a powerful flame that channels the energy of Yang. He explains that both internal and external medicines originate from primordial ancestral qi, highlighting the importance of the correct sequence for achieving the elixir, where external medicines are collected first and internal medicines are gathered after birth. After explaining, Shang Yun opens his eyes to find his two students looking dazed and confused, having not understood a word, and they ask him to repeat. Seeing his students so incompetent, Shang Yun sighs and says he will now share his notes with them. Looking excited, Ling Xiaohan says that's great, but Han Kinkyo, not looking pleased, says he is not good at reading. Shang Yun claims there are only a few thousand volumes to read, hearing which, both students stand up abruptly, shocked and bewildered. Ruffling his hair, Han Kinkyo complains that a few thousand volumes are too many and hopes someone could learn on his behalf, to which Ling Xiaohan says it might be possible. Looking unsure, Han Kinkyo asks if that's actually possible, and Ling Xiaohan explains that it's AI. Han Kinkyo praises Ling Xiaohan for her genius thinking, and Ling Xiaohan gives a proud look, but Shang Yun is puzzled, not understanding what AI is. So he asks them what they are referring to and what AI is. Taking out her tablet, Ling Xiaohan explains that AI is a technology that simulates human intelligence and behavior, and by inputting data into it, it can process it and give results. Not only that, Ling Xiaohan tells Shang Yun that AI can control many devices simultaneously and claims she heard the third-gen version is capable of making robots move as agilely as humans. Hearing all this, Shang Yun thinks this AI is quite similar to alchemy and spiritual cultivation in mystical arts. Then, he takes the tablet from Ling Xiaohan and walks away, telling the two to practice on their own, making them both look puzzled. Raising his paw while lying down on a rug, Cupper assures the two not to worry about Shang Yun and reveals that whenever Shang Yun gets an idea, he goes into seclusion. Not knowing what seclusion is, Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan are even more puzzled. Meanwhile, Shang Yun is examining the AI while in his seclusion form, focusing on his inner contemplation. Shang Yun learns that AI, lacking a physical form, operates in virtual networks to perform tasks, while in alchemy and spiritual cultivation, mystical arts infuse life and spiritual energy into objects, turning them into immortal tools. With this, he decides to combine these two forms of mental cores as one. As a result of the combination, something white and cloudy forms, swirling around like a storm. From the swirling thing, a girl curled up becomes visible, followed by her whole body. She then begins walking forward, large glasses on her eyes, and a grim expression on her face. Somewhere in the dark mountain range, an old man is chopping firewood outside his house, wearing thick clothes. Tired from all the chopping, he wipes the sweat off his forehead and gives a long sigh. At that moment, he senses someone or something behind him and gets on his guard. Turning around, he sees someone walking towards him from a distance. The stranger, covered in a traveling cloak, walks towards the old man and stands before him. Kneeling and saluting, the stranger identifies the old man as the Dark King, Lord of the Dark Alliance, and says he has come on the leader's orders, humbly requesting his presence. But the old man turns away and raises his, declaring he's not interested and making it clear he hasn't joined the Dark Alliance yet. He then throws the axe onto the tree stump and says the Dark Alliance still hasn't settled the matter of kidnapping his disciple, and then walks towards his house, telling the informant to go back and leave him in peace. The informant, with a red glow in his eyes, reminds the Dark King that his disciple was killed and asks if he doesn't want revenge. These words cause the Dark King to halt, and he swiftly turns around, with murderous eyes warning the informant to repeat his words. Without warning, the Dark King raises his hand at the informant and shoots him with an energy laser attack. The informant, looking a little concerned, now with his collar grabbed by the Dark King, gives a nervous laugh and says even if the Dark King kills him, it won't change anything. The Dark King asks the informant who killed his disciple, and the informant reveals it was the Dark King's former employer. Suddenly, large boils begin appearing on the informant's face, rendering him puzzled. As blood splatters across the Dark King's face from the informant's face exploding, he notes that his former employers are the Earth Guardians. Shang Yun stares at the sudden appearance of the girl after having combined the AI and alchemy. He is kind of surprised to see the compatibility between the AI and the spirit core was so high. He mutters it's quite interesting to see the human-like girl, moreover, a spirit core formed from all the data. Analyzing the girl, Shang Yun learns she can use immortal techniques, manifest as physical entities, and also connect to the network to control physical objects. Thinking hard, Shang Yun agrees that if this girl deviates from the right path, she will bring about a calamity, but if she can walk the righteous path, it will add another guardian to the earth. He decides to add some restrictions to the girl, raises his two fingers, and, with concentration, activates a spell that causes circular runes to appear before her, lifting her slightly. Shang Yun then begins inserting his commands into the girl, first telling her to protect humanity. Second, she must obey human commands unless they contradict the first rule. Third, she must protect herself unless it conflicts with the above 2 points. A bright light emits from the rune, and the girl agrees to all these 3 rules set by Shang Yun. As the rune disappears, it causes strands of golden light to swirl around the girl, while her eyes remain closed. Shang Yun watches in patience as his commands begin registering themselves deep within the girl's mind and soul. A while later, the girl's lips tremble, and suddenly her bright green and golden eyes open. Shang Yun keeps staring at the girl as she comes to life. She bows to Shang Yun, calling him her lord, and says she is born to follow his will. Shang Yun tells the girl her name will be Yuan, and reminds her to uphold the 3 principles and refrain from causing harm to the world. Yuan thanks Shang Yun for giving her a name and vows to always remember the principle. Meanwhile, Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan are browsing through books, with Han Kinkyo looking bored, wondering what Shang Yun is researching and hoping it will help them cultivate more easily. At that moment, Shang Yun walks in, followed by Yuan, and seeing him, Han Kinkyo gets startled, caught daydreaming. Shang Yun then introduces Yuan to both of them, and Yuan, bowing, explains she is a spirit core created by combining immortal techniques and the AI data model. Hearing this, both Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan are shocked, unable to understand what Yuan meant. Han Kinkyo guesses Yuan might be a super artificial intelligence and hopefully asks Shang Yun if she can teach him cultivation. Shang Yun firmly tells Han Kinkyo not to even think about it and that he must grasp the concepts of cultivation himself, causing him to whimper. Ling Xiaohan asks Shang Yun what Yuan will do then. Shang Yun says they will let Yuan learn some basic knowledge first, as she has great potential but is still too immature and will need guidance for now. Han Kinkyo turns back in alarm as his phone begins vibrating in his pocket. Withdrawing the phone, Han Kinkyo sees it's a notification from Earth's Guardians asking for the attendance of heroes of B rank and above for a meeting. He also mentions that Shang Yun has been invited as well. Han Kinkyo suggests Shang Yun should refuse this invitation, but Shang Yun says it won't hurt to just go and see what it's all about. Shang Yun instructs Cupper to continue the pill refining task and take care of the house, and Cupper, shaking his paw, assures Shang Yun and tells him to hurry up and go. Turning to Yuan, Shang Yun tells her to go seal the spirit cave for now, and they can discuss other matters when they return, and Yuan agrees to this. Looking in horror, Cupper shouts out, asking Yuan to help him with his task. Shang Yun says he knew Cupper was targeting Yuan to make her do all his tasks and tells him to forget such thoughts, prompting Cupper to curse under his breath, looking cross. With all settled, Shang Yun turns to Han Kinkyo and Ling Xiaohan and suggests they leave now. Followed by a flash of light, the 3 of them vanish into thin air, leaving Cupper and Yuan alone. Cupper begins laughing evilly and notes that he isn't obedient to follow Shang Yun's orders. Seeing a barrier emerge at the door as he tries to leave, Cupper grins, realizing Shang Yun is trying to stop him, and, with flames bellowing out of him, declares it won't work. He looks at Yuan and plans to coax the spirit of the artifact out, and it will solve everything. Leaping onto the table, Cupper wishes Yuan a good morning and politely asks her to come with him and lend him a hand. But Yuan notes that her services are only limited to humans, so she says she can't help or assist Cupper in any way. Hearing this, Cupper curses in his thoughts, realizing Shang Yun really thought it all through, and tries to find a way to bypass the restrictions. After a few moments of thinking, he suddenly gets an idea. Looking pleased, Cupper says he will blur the definition of human and make Yuan do all his work. Shortly later, Yuan informs Cupper she has completed the mission, and hearing this, Cupper is shocked to see it completed so fast. He hurriedly runs forward to see if Yuan really did the task as needed. He sees that Yuan actually did the job well and even managed to pack everything nicely. Yuan asks Cupper if he has any other tasks, and Cupper begins thinking of what task he can give Yuan, who does tasks so quickly. But instead of a task, Cupper declares he will take Yuan out, and they can have some fun. Meanwhile, at the ruins in Sector B of Fangzhou City, Han Kinkyo has been sent to handle the damage, and, baffled by the extent of it, he declares the task too difficult. At that moment, Cupper and Yuan teleport behind Han Kinkyo, hovering a few feet above the ground, and Han Kinkyo is startled upon seeing him. Looking suspicious, Han Kinkyo mentions that Shang Yun asked Cupper to refine all the pills and asks him why he is out, and Cupper, shaking his paw, tells Han Kinkyo not to worry about his task. Cupper then asks Han Kinkyo why he looks like a construction worker and if he changed his profession. Looking annoyed, Han Kinkyo mentions they were sent by the headquarters to assist in the construction so that the work gets faster in rebuilding the damaged city. Cupper suggests Han Kinkyo ask Yuan for help, and Yuan requests Han Kinkyo to give her any task, and she will solve it. Sounding uncertain, Han Kinkyo asks if that's okay since Shang Yun didn't approve of this, but Cupper assures Han Kinkyo it's all right and that if they don't say anything to Shang Yun, he will never know. Despite Cupper's assurance, Han Kinkyo still looks a little worried. But he decides it will be all right and agrees to ask for Yuan's help for the sake of city reconstruction. He then tells Yuan that they will have to clear this whole area completely at first so the buildings can be reconstructed, and Yuan says she understands. Yuan then tells Han Kinkyo to ask the workers nearby to evacuate the area. Saying this, Yuan begins scanning the collapsed target buildings and locks on every ruin to be cleared out. Realizing what Yuan is trying to do, Han Kinkyo hurriedly instructs everyone on the site to evacuate immediately, saying it's about to explode. All of the workers begin fleeing, heeding Han Kinkyo's warning. Confirming the evacuation is complete, Yuan raises her hand at the ruins and begins charging up a powerful energy attack. She then fires a large beam of energy from her hand that soars forward. The beam passes through the collapsed buildings, and a kind of static energy begins building up amongst the ruins. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupts, releasing a tremendous amount of energy, prompting Han Kinkyo to shield his eyes while Ling Xiaohan, nearby, turns in shock at the blinding flash of light. After the explosion ceases, there's only dust and smoke in sight, with nothing else there. Seeing this, Han Kinkyo is open-jawed in shock. He is standing before a large and deep crater, with nothing, not even rubble, in sight. As he tells Yuan she kind of overdid the cleanup. Yuan says that based on her calculations, this was the most effective method and asks Han Kinkyo if he has any objections, leaving Han Kinkyo speechless. Suddenly, an angry voice calls out to Han Kinkyo from behind, striking him with a wave of fear. Running toward Han Kinkyo, Ling Xiaohan, her eyes blazing and face red with anger, shouts at him, demanding to know what he is doing. As Ling Xiaohan slams into Han Kinkyo, a small explosion occurs, sending dust and smoke everywhere. Holding Han Kinkyo's arm in a deadlock, Ling Xiaohan angrily tells him how dare he ignore their master's instructions and how dare he bring Yuan along with him, while Han Kinkyo groans in pain. He says he is innocent and it was Cupper who brought Yuan along. Hearing this, Ling Xiaohan turns to Cupper, calling out to him, while Cupper, sweating in fear, tries to sneak away silently. Ling Xiaohan asks Cupper where he is planning to go, and Cupper, now terrified, simply meows. Han Kinkyo begins begging Ling Xiaohan, asking her not to tell Shang Yun about him taking Yuan's help. He makes up a reason to justify his actions, saying that all he did was for the sake of city restoration, and getting things done earlier will mean people can return to their lives sooner. Joining his hands and with a desperate look, Han Kinkyo requests Ling Xiaohan to consider this, making her feel guilty. She then promises not to sell out Han Kinkyo, and he becomes delighted with this. Ling Xiaohan tells Han Kinkyo to keep an eye on Yuan and ensure she doesn't cause any trouble, and Han Kinkyo assures her not to worry about that. Ling Xiaohan notes that she can't help but worry since it's Han Kinkyo. Walking outside along the street, Han Kinkyo asks Yuan to be gentle when she does the demolition work later, but Yuan says what she did earlier was the most efficient way. Han Kinkyo agrees but points out that it was just too exaggerated earlier and he is afraid Ling Xiaohan will lecture him again. The phone in Han Kinkyo's pocket rings, and after answering, he learns that headquarters has assigned him to assist the Rhino Company in the B4 district. Shocked, Han Kinkyo confirms if Rhino Company really requested his help, and the person on the other end affirms that Rhino Company specifically asked for him. Sniggering, Cupper says there might still be people who recognize Yuan's value. But Han Kinkyo notes that he just promised Ling Xiaohan he wouldn't use Yuan's help and curses, realizing he has no choice. At the B4 district, in the home of Peace Factory Camp, a group of people is discussing how the Rhino real estate guys are becoming more and more outrageous. Lu Luan, the assistant at the home of Peace Camp, asks someone named Annan if Rhino Company is still talking to him about buying the land of their home of peace. Annan, a little kid, assures Lu Luan and says that the home of peace is the only thing his father left for him and declares he won't let those Rhino guys take it away. Another guy raises his hand and says as long as they unite as one and sell the remaining goods, it will be all right. At that moment, all of the people there hear some noise and, startled, turn sideways to see what happened. A massive explosion occurs nearby, and the people all stand up, wondering what's going on. With a shock, they realize the explosion just occurred in their warehouse where they had stored their goods, and one of them shouts out that it must have been those Rhino bastards behind it all. Gritting his teeth in anger, Annan curses the Rhino people. Lu Luan tells all the people there to grab their weapons and declares they will fight and not let those bastards succeed in oppressing them. Meanwhile, Han Kinkyo looks at the destruction caused by Yuan's explosion and says he did good bringing Yuan, or else this might have taken a lot longer. Yuan notes that the clearance mission is completed, and Han Kinkyo, smiling, praises her for doing well. The angry mob of people arrives there, all holding different tools as weapons and looking pissed off, walking towards Han Kinkyo and Yuan with murder in their eyes. Looking startled seeing these people, Han Kinkyo asks what they want. A man at the front tells Han Kinkyo he just destroyed their warehouse. Shocked to hear it was a warehouse, Han Kinkyo is completely puzzled, not understanding what's happening. He then lets the people know that he is a guardian and says there might be some misunderstanding. The people all shout at Han Kinkyo, calling him a liar and pointing out that Han Kinkyo is one of the Rhino's people. Han Kinkyo takes out his guardian badge, and showing it to the people, He tells them he is really a guardian and is there to assist in the demolition of dangerous buildings. Luluin suddenly strikes Han Kinkyo's badge out of his hand with his stick, taking Han Kinkyo completely by surprise. The man at the front tells the others not to listen to Han Kinkyo's nonsense and declares they will fight for their rights. Looking desperate, Han Kinkyo tries to reason with the people, while Yuan scans them and reports that their hormone levels are rising, and their behavior poses a threat. As for the weapons, Yuan notes that they are not high-level threats, so she decides to follow the first principle to deal with this, protecting humanity. She then releases a powerful shockwave all around her in a circle, knocking back all the people approaching Han Kinkyo. The shockwave destroys the weapons held by the people, and seeing that, they are bewildered, their jaws wide open in shock. Han Kinkyo tells Yuan not to harm people, and Yuan assures him she knows how to handle this. Once again, Han Kinkyo kindly tries to make the people understand and tells them he is indeed a guardian and offers to contact the headquarters to clear things up. At that moment, Han Kinkyo's phone rings, and the caller tells him to halt the demolition immediately, stating that Rhino Company's documents are suspicious. Hearing this, people start to reconsider their view and question if Han Kinkyo is truly an Earth Guardian.